This is the Dania Beach City Commission virtual regular meeting, Tuesday, May 12, 2020 at 7:01 p.m. Sorry, that was my fault. Can you please call the roll?
Hey, City Clerk.
Thank you. Mayor Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Yes.
Commissioner Bradford.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
You're muted.
I see you.
Unmute yourself, Bill.
I am here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
City Manager Garcia.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
He's waving at you, but I think you need to hear him, correct?
Yeah, I see him.
Yeah. Hello, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
Republic
for which
Which stands
One nation, under God.
God,
full
liberty,
liberty and justice.
for all.
justice. Amen.
And now if we could just take a moment of silence to remember those who have passed as a result of the COVID virus. Thank you very much. Our first item, we have a couple of presentations. First one is Dania Point update by Kim Butler, Director of Marketing at Dania Point. Is Kim here? There she is.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
There we go. Okay. Hi, I hope everybody's doing well. We have lots of news to report this evening out of Dania Point. First of all, throughout the, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. I had things flashing on my screen. Throughout the period that we've been experiencing with the COVID-19 virus, all of our restaurants, with the exception of First Watch, Padrino's, and Tommy Bahama, which is 12 out of 15 restaurants, have successfully remained open throughout the past 2 months. They've been adopting their business models to include drive-up, curbside pickup, online and telephone orders. Additionally, BrandSmart USA, GNC, Aspen Dental were also permitted to remain open as essential businesses. Now, just last week, we saw the reopening of Five Below and Ulta Beauty with curbside pickup service. And with the imminent lifting of restrictions, we're also going to see a number of open locations at Dania Point double, hopefully in the next few weeks. And then they'll also be joined by new store openings, which is very exciting. Rodizio Grill, Lindbergh, and Designers Market. Following that up, within 60 days, the potential is for another 6 to 8 new stores to be able to open. And we're also looking forward to soon welcoming the first residents of Avery Dania Point before the official start of summer. So a lot of activity that will gear up very quickly. Leasing activity at Dania Point is healthy. Our list of coming soon tenants now includes Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, and recently executed an agreement with the Improv Comedy Club. Kimco Realty, the parent company for Dania Point, rolled out a nationwide campaign for curbside pickup. At Dania Point, we will have 8 different zones and designated parking locations where customers can experience contactless convenience in picking up their online orders from their favorite restaurants and retailers. The designated areas will be well signed and identified in current parking spaces and allow merchants and customers to engage in contactless commerce and have the best experience possible. In response to concerns raised by COVID-19, additional attention is being implemented to sanitize common areas to provide a safe environment for all who work and visit Dania Point. I am famous for saying the comeback is stronger than the setback. And to accomplish that, our marketing and messaging efforts for Dania Point will shift from events, which we had a full calendar of events that have since been changed. And we'll be supporting our tenants and our community. We proudly partnered with the city on the recent Adopt-A-Box distribution, which provided 800 families with 20-pound boxes of fresh produce and vegetables. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that later, thanks to City Manager Garcia. We are launching a salute to high school seniors in partnership with Cox Media, allowing them to shine larger than life at Dania Point in a yearbook-style montage that will become a part of social media and fill the void of memories not experienced due to the pandemic. We're also reaching our event strategy to incorporate safe and unique ways to have virtual and real experiences in a safe environment. There are a lot of great ideas and great concepts that are coming out, including we're looking into an opportunity right now to potentially do some drive-in movies, and we can talk a little bit more about that. We're also working with the Howard Allen events, which are arts and crafts festivals that take place all up and down the east and west coast of Florida, and tentatively have dates already secured for them in October as well. Adding to our safety strategy, we welcomed Guy Pagan to the Securitas security team at Dania Point just last month. Guy is a Dania Beach resident. He's already jumped in with both feet to enhance both the safety and security for everyone at Dania Point. And we're also looking at an opportunity now to be able to expand some outdoor seating for our restaurants. We're watching the trends very closely. We're seeing that a lot of customers are more comfortable sitting outside than they are indoors. And of course, still maintaining those social distancing recommendations. And that is my report.
Thanks, Kim. I'm sure there's going to be comments about outdoor seating from everybody at some point. So had your hand up?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thanks, Kim. I wanted to ask a question just because I received a couple of calls today. Are non-essential businesses allowed to serve curbside pickup, like the 5 and Below store? Is that allowed right now?
Yeah.
So all non-essential businesses can operate from curbside pickup?
I believe that what the stores are operating under is the mandates of the state. And so that's not something that we're mandating.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's been the first like non-essential business, like, you know, and that's not a grocery store or a medical store or something like that, that I've seen with someone send me the photographs of the curbside pickup. So I wasn't sure if that's allowed for other businesses or if it was something special that we had with Dania Point. So I was just asking, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor?
Hi, Kim. Nice to see you.
Nice
So
to see you.
is there any special challenges that any of the stores or the restaurants are facing that they verbalized to you where they need something from the city, whether it was, you know, I know that there's been a lot of creative solutions among them, as the commissioner mentioned earlier about doing the outdoor seating, you know, the places that have done the curbside. Is there anything from the city's end that needs to be done or adjusted?
You know, the great thing is that we have a great relationship with the city. Mm-hmm. And should we come across those things, I'm sure that that's a very healthy conversation that will take place. Right now, Kimco has done really a lot of homework in a lot of different jurisdictions, some which have opened up sooner than Dania Point, to be able to troubleshoot some potential obstacles. I'm not aware of anything at this moment, but it's nice to know that the door is open. Mm-hmm. And those are conversations that we can engage in. Our curbside initiative is really going to be, I think, well, they've rolled it out nationwide. And in fact, our CEO was on CNBC last week to be able, or to roll it out on the program. So I think that that's going to be an asset for both Dania Beach and Dania Point, so that visitors and residents alike are going to be able to maintain that contactless exchange, but still be able to patronize stores in their hometown.
I have a secondary question. Bob mentioned this as being one of the most impactful things we can do, which is making the customers feel more safe. And specifically, he was saying for restaurants, but I agree it's with all business. Making people feel safe that they can go back in, and this was echoed in the county meetings, and we're hearing this basically all over, that this is something that we need to do. So with the restaurants, how are we addressing things like cross-contamination? I mean, you have a customer eating their food, and then you have a server that takes it away, and you have bus boys, and you have chefs, all these different things. So how are the restaurants within Dania Point addressing that need for the safety?
I think that each restaurant has their own list of steps that they will be following. I have seen restaurants where they're actually removing things like the salt and pepper shakers, so that everything is coming in packets, so that they're looking at the ways to minimize the contact that the servers had. And by the way, it's not even just for the customers, but it's for their employees as well.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's a painstaking process. And what the restaurants have done is become very good at adapting to what is needed. I had a great conversation today with one of our restaurants, talking about, expanding the outdoor seating, so that way they are able to manage that 25% or 50%, however it rolls out, to keep the inside relatively empty and be able to serve outside, which is a lot less threatening, I think, for both the servers and for the customers.
And is that the plan at this point? How many of the restaurants are planning on doing that? I mean, we have at this point a 5-day rollout for this. That's not much time. So what's the plan?
Well, I think just because they can open on Monday doesn't necessarily mean that they are all feel that they're ready to. So every one of them will do it in the time that is comfortable for them to be able to roll it out. Cooper's Hawk, you've got outside seating. Tommy Bahama, you already have outside seating. For Lime Fresh and BurgerFi and Ease and Toss-Up Salads, you have those outside seating opportunities. And so what we're doing is working with them very closely to identify other areas where we can accommodate restaurants that may not have that easement right in front of their doors, so that we can create that and be able to manage that, with a constant wiping down of tables and sanitizing.
Is there the possibility for expansion even, and I haven't been there in a few days, but towards like the fountain perhaps? There's that whole area that for that, we would used to congregate over there, but is there opportunities with that?
There is. We're looking at a number of opportunities to be able to create those, for lack of a better description, but like an outdoor food court.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
Looking at all of those opportunities, at least on a temporary basis, to be able to give those restaurants the lift that they're going to need.
And then is Dania Point specifically, are they doing any kind of monitoring and evaluation of how these adaptations, whether they're successful or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because in fact, that was the conversation I had with one of our restaurants today. Everything will start as a temporary, but obviously if it takes off and it becomes popular and it's helpful to the environment in terms for the tenant as well as the visitor, then certainly we'll look to make some changes as needed.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
Sure.
Commissioner Brandamari.
Hi, Kim.
Commissioner, how are you this evening?
I'm good. Listen, I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Also, adding on to what you were saying, it sounds wonderful. And thank you for realizing that outside seating, they're the ones that are going to be taken first. People are going to want to, that. Better to
Right.
be outside in the air than to be in the confinement of a room where people are going to sneeze. Even they're not going to wear a mask while they're eating. We're already experiencing that on Las Olas. But also, I made a suggestion to them over there, and they're complying. Some of the restaurants, instead of the plastic menus, paper.
Paper menus,
Yes,
disposable paper
Kim,
menus.
it's very important, and I'll tell you why. The people will be watching to see if that server actually just did take a cloth and disinfect that menu and not pick it up and go to the next table. So I've already got 2 restaurants that are going to comply with me telling them, do it in advance, get the paper menus. Very important. Also, the street where you have the fountain, do you realize you have an opportunity there, a golden one? Because you can do on that street what Las Olas is fighting, because there's 2 commissioners that are not agreeing with closing the street and making the restaurants that have smaller outside seating to be
Right.
able to utilize the street for their business. That's important, because otherwise the big ones were helping. The small ones were doing nothing for them.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I
Like
understand.
I see it here already. Like I'm looking at Conquistador, which is a small pizza place. My suggestion is going to be to him to find out from whoever manages over there to let him use the side of the building.
Right.
You follow me? I've already told another restaurant, your parking grounds, get planks, not planks, but like a flooring, extend your seating area out there, because all it is a parking lot, and you're not going to be that full right now. But people will want to sit outside, just not to be in a closed area.
I agree with you.
Padrino's, I want to tell you, Padrino's has been a godsend on Tuesdays or Thursdays. They've been actually donating food to a church here, and I have seniors going there to pick up food even today. So Padrino's, they're wonderful. And I already belong to the wine club over there, so that's it. So I'm losing my $20 bottle every time because I don't go out much to go there. But talk to your restaurants about paper menus. You won't have anybody complaining. Otherwise, they're going to say, what are you doing? You handed it to her. Now you handed it to me.
Right.
I know, but thank you very much. And thank you for coming here.
My pleasure. Thank you. Great suggestions.
Yeah, thank you.
City Manager?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Kim first and foremost for the $5,000 check that she sent us, and she helped really make that food drive a success. And she also sent us a team of volunteers because she was not able to make it. But every time I talk to Kim, it's all about thinking outside the box. And I know Dana Point is in good hands. The conversations that she's been having with me in regards to the possibility of a drive-in theater and the different restaurants being able to take the food to the car. This innovative outside the box thinking is what's really going to take Dania Beach and Dania Point in the right direction. So I wanted to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, we had some very early success with working with one of our restaurant partners when we did the holiday movies in December, where they came and took orders and then delivered dinners right to where the movies were being shown. So I think that we've already got a footprint in being able to execute that successfully. And I'll keep you posted on our conversation and the developments with that.
Awesome.
Commissioner Harris? You're muted. There you go.
There was a list of guidelines today that was mentioned at the Broward County Commission meeting from, I think it was the Florida Food and Lodging Association, about a list of guidelines for restaurants to open under. So I don't know if you have those yet, but if you don't, we'll get those for you. And then while we're talking about the, the great lawn at Dania Point, and in addition, like Commissioner said about the outdoor tables, and being that she's Italian, she might like to see a bocce ball court out there or something like that, or because one of the things that we're hearing about Moley now is that nobody's want to unless you can sanitize a bowling ball or those shoes every time you use them, there might be some challenges there. But as long as the weather is nice, I want to put money on it that Commissioner Brandon Marte will beat anybody at bocce ball.
Okay. Well, good. Then I'll know to hone up on my game a little bit. That's for sure.
Commissioner James.
Yes, for conversation's sake, for a discussion that's a little later on, I just wanted to know, Kim, if you had any conversations with any of the restaurants that have spoken to you about the percentage that they would need to successfully open outdoor seating. I know we've been discussing like 25%, but I've heard from 25 to 50%, but I just wanted to know if you've spoken to the actual restaurants to see, is there anything within that range that they would be comfortable with, or is it successful, or is it worth it for us to give 25%?
So we've not spoken in terms of percentages. A lot of the restaurants around the state have opened with 25% occupancy inside. And the idea is that the outside, they're not limited to a percentage as long as they can respect the social distancing boundaries of 6 feet in between tables.
Oh, right. Okay, I like that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Kim, actually, just to mention, I know there's going to be an order coming out. It's just a matter of what it's going to say at this point. We're going to talk about this more later on, but you should definitely stay in touch with all of us, because there's going to be, I think, we're going to have a lengthy discussion later, I think, about some of the things that we want to do here as far as opening things. And I know one of the things that everybody, I think, is interested in is more outdoor seating at Dania Point. Something you should know, I do believe that drive-through or drive-in movie theaters are going to be approved. They haven't been approved previously, but I believe they're going to be approved this time. So that's a good thing, considering you want to do the movies.
Right. Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item is Dania Beach Chamber of Commerce update. Randy Shane. Find her.
There we go. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Madam Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, nice to see your faces. You know, being social, we really miss everybody. So we're calling it physical distancing rather than social, because we still want to be social. So restarting Broward County's economy, which has been shut down by the COVID-19 pandemic, is essential to the lives and livelihood of our local community. Is my video not working?
I'm trying to bring it up.
Yeah. Start my video. Okay. And here I come. I have been in contact with many of my members and local businesses throughout this crisis. Most of my members have remained open to some degree throughout this crisis, and they really want to reopen as close to normal as soon as possible, especially those businesses that have received PPP money, as the window to utilize that and have it forgiven is very short. The ones I've spoken to have all indicated that they have all the supplies they need and are ready to go. For example, our hotels would like to be allowed to accept visitors. And I've seen in several orders where it's strictly still essential personnel, but without the visitors, they're not going to be able to get their revenues up to where it's profitable for them to stay open. They've been working on very small percentages of staff and skeleton crews. Some of them are basically the GM and one housekeeper. Many of our restaurants have been operating to some capacity, but are anxious to bring back diners and would prefer 50% occupancy, because really that's what they need to just pay their nut. I mean, it's not even profitable at that point, but at least they're not losing money. And again, they need to remain solvent to have their PPP loans forgiven. Rosita at the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, and you've heard her mentioned several times, or at least the association has done a tremendous job assisting our area hotels and restaurants with operating guidelines to reduce the COVID-19 risk and providing suppliers for their PPE and sanitation supplies. Many of the restaurants I talked to have different types of solutions that clean within seconds, because I know you were all asking about in between customers. And so they do have the operation, like I believe it's 45 seconds to sanitize the area. Some have used this downtime to thoroughly clean and disinfect their businesses. For example, Rustic Inn is one of those. They've been closed from the start of this. They thoroughly clean the restaurant and have already started ordering provisions. Dockers is another one. And he's also started, he was open at the beginning and then closed. He started ordering provisions, and they really need to open because of their PPP funding. I also have questions from multiple restaurants and hotels regarding bars are to remain closed, but if the bar is within the hotel or restaurant, if it's socially distanced, and if they have to require them to purchase a food item, are they allowed to serve at their bars? So that's a big question that a lot of them have. Antonio's has been open with takeout and delivery through the whole thing, and they're ready to go. Stephen explained to me that his sanitation for his dishes and glasses are over what is required. It's extra hot and extra sanitizing. Because another question is are the finer restaurants going to be asked to serve like their filet mignon dinner on a paper plate? It's a fair question. I know other suggestions have been for people to bring their own silverware. That's an interesting concept too. So it's a whole new world and a whole new normal for us. And I guess we have to feel what is going to work best for the majority. The hotels that are owned by Economist Group have all remained open with the exception of the Fairfield. And they are ready to open that. And the 2 hotels that they're building in Dania Point have been going full steam ahead, and they're on schedule, and they're excited to get them open. AD1 Global's Wyndham, they are doing better than most hotels. Most hotels are in the under 10 or under 20 category of having room nights. They've been in the 20s, and they're ready to open the True Hotel. Le Méridien, this is so sad and devastating. They furloughed all their employees except for their general manager. If you call the hotel, it goes to voicemail. As of last night, there was no projected opening date, and they closed the end of March. So after that beautiful grand opening and all those employees, it's just quite devastating, especially with the numbers of our unemployment. You know, 1.8 million apply and 500,000 are processed. Where's the other 1.3 million? These people are starving. The chamber has been active supporting our members and partnering with other local chambers and organizations to provide additional resources and information. I am president this year of the Broward County Council of Chambers. I heard Bob on your previous meeting, and we've formed multiple partnerships now, working together as groups. We've extended invitations on our weekly Zoom meetings for the council to include the Fort Lauderdale Alliance, Six Pillars, Broward, and other chambers in our sister counties, because we're like the mayors trying to have a united front. As of tonight, 4 chambers in Florida have been forced to close their doors due to lack of funding. So they're completely out of business. Many of our local chamber leaders and staff have had to take pay reductions and furlough employees. Several of those who own their buildings are looking into taking out mortgages to survive this. Nationwide, collection of dues is less than 15% on a typical billing cycle. Last month, we sent out, as the Dania Beach Chamber, 30 renewals. We received 3 back. This month, 22, we've received 1 back. It's still early in the month, so we're hoping for more. And that's not including the 5 events that we personally have had to cancel between April and July. Now more than ever, chambers need the financial support of their cities and their members. FPL sits on several chamber boards and has contacted the chambers in Broward County after seeing the economic impact to chambers, and they have offered to pay their annual dues early to help us. As a united group, we are supporting, they also understand the importance of having a chamber of commerce in every city. So as a group, and the Council of Chambers and the Alliance, we are supporting the ilovelocal2020.com campaign by the Alliance and Six Pillars Broward. The local iLove2020.com campaign will help rally the community to promote safe work environments, to jumpstart local consumer spending, and to sustain local Broward businesses. It will also recognize how Broward County is coming together to fight this pandemic, and it will showcase our local heroes working on the front line. By engaging Broward businesses, community partners, and residents in a series of buy local activities, the ilovelocal2020.com campaign will provide an economic shot in the arm for the Broward County, resulting in return to a strong, diverse economy and healthy environment. Also had another suggestion. You were asking about the menus, and Chickie mentioned the paper ones. But if they could put QR codes on the tables, most of us have smartphones. We could pull it up right on our phone, save the paper, and use the menus that way. So just a thought. We all need to be patient, diligent, and know that we will continue to move forward until this pandemic is resolved. So we're all doing the best we can and working as hard as we can.
Thank you, Randy. Just real quick, I know there's some hands up, but unfortunately, hotels are not part of the phase 1 reopening for anybody. So hotels are still going to have to hold off a little longer. And as far as you had a question, what was the one question that you had? I'm sorry about
the bars within the hotels and restaurants. But going back to the hotels, Lori, what if they got PPP money? How are they going to be protected if they can't utilize it?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can just tell you that that is not part of phase 1.
If that can move forward up the food chain, that would be great.
What we've been asking about it with our meetings with the Broward County mayor, with the governor, with a number of people that we've been talking to, and everybody's been asking about hotels. It's been a big factor because obviously South Florida, especially anything coastal, we've got, our hotels are a big part of the business here as tourism. But unfortunately, that's not something that it looks like they're going to move on. But the bars, my understanding is that the bars still, the concern is that it could be an area for people congregating.
Right.
They're not being included as part of the seating area for any restaurant. So that's the problem with that. With that, Mayor, you have your hand up.
Yes. I just wanted to chime in.
Commissioner Brandemar, Vice Mayor is going first. Hold on.
Sorry, it wouldn't unmute me. It said that you had me muted. So Randy, how many businesses are in the chamber right now?
252 approximately.
52. And then how many specifically did we contact?
I would say over the course of this, over 50, not including Dania Point, as Kim was contacting them. Right. And I know that Lori contacted quite a few, so we tried not to do the same effort over and over. Well, that's by phone call. Right. A lot of them were via email, and if via email, I've contacted every business. So.
Okay. And then, so we hit all the industries, the different industries to talk with them?
I have, at the beginning of this, I sent out to every partner in the chamber. And then we concentrated on restaurants. And then I personally called different businesses and hotels. I left off the part, I don't know if you all know, but Gallery of Amazing Things has been sold. They have lots of plans, they're renovating, but they're also ready to go in the front section where they can house smaller parties, depending on what the group size that's gonna be permitted is. So.
Okay. So of the 50 that you spoke to, because I know we spoke the other night and you said that they verbalized to you that they don't need anything other than they need to be opened. So there's no assistance that any of those different restaurants have asked for that they would want to do that they're not sure if they're able to do?
No, and the ones downtown, I did ask about the additional seating, but most of them don't have parking lots to begin with, so they're not willing to give up anything. But they all did, ask for at least 50% occupancy because some of them will not open the building at 25%. It's not worth bringing the staff in.
And they wouldn't.
They'll just keep going the to-go and the delivery that they've been doing.
And they wouldn't want to do the outdoor seating.
No, it's for instance Joe's Fish Grill and Dockers. They have no parking to begin with. They can't use their parking lots because there is no space. And neither one of them wanted to do outdoor seating, but they both need to get open because they both have PPP money. Now, Dockers was a little more flexible, so he'll open at the 25%. Joe wasn't so sure at Fish Grill if it'd be worth bringing his staff in at 25%.
Were there any concerns with what they'll be doing with their kids? I mean, all these people returning to the workforce, and where are they putting their kids?
Yeah, I got no staff concerns. To be honest, I didn't ask that question, what their staff is going to do. But I can go back and bring it back to you if you want me to. But no, I've asked her, is there anything we can help with? Do you have any concerns? Is there anything we need to assist with getting you open? And pretty much like Kim said, they all are pretty much ready and they just need to be open. And most of them haven't closed totally. I mean, a handful have, but most of them have been doing some type of business, whether it be to go or curbside or Uber or Grubhub. They've all done something. Some became meat markets and aren't even selling food. And like Tropical Acres, they're going to continue with the meat market because it's been so successful.
Yeah, that was fantastic that they did that. So I'm sure if you heard earlier, whether you listened to the county meeting or you heard the beginning of our meeting about the importance of making the residents feel like it's safe to go out and eat, because at first they might not feel safe in that way. So what did they say that they're doing to help people feel like they have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's? Is there something in place that they're doing either through the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association? Do they all belong to that? What percentage even belong to the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association?
And that number I don't have, but I know it's quite a bit because I got a lot of feedback on, they've gotten it from Rosita. I'm part of a group of 9,000 chambers throughout the United States. And so we have signage available once this happens that we can offer our members to show like what they're doing, like steps, like, we're doing that, we're cleaning the tables, our employees are wearing masks and gloves, we do this every so often. It's not going to depend on your orders and what you require them to do. Like some of them told me they've taken what the Restaurant Association has sent them and they're doing it even further than they're being requested to. When this first started and we started the restaurant to-goes, and people were leery of even taking out, I talked to Jack at Tropical Acres and I said, people want to know that when they're wrapping the silverware, that they're wearing gloves. And so he started doing videos on Facebook with them cleaning the menus, with the employees wearing masks and gloves. I mean, I said, just put it out there because these are the people's fears. So if you just address it head on, you're going to take away the fear.
And I think that's a really great point about addressing it head on, so that you deal with the fear. Something Beam Fur had brought up today was about almost a certification. The Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, they have this, I guess it's a checklist. I don't know exactly what it is, but some core standards of what this restaurant has to be doing, so that there is something that when you go to this restaurant, that this is a restaurant that does this, 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 and this. And then you also know that there may be another restaurant that if they don't have that, then maybe you can say, this isn't for me. I'm going to go to this place that I know has a certification. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Any other questions?
There are. Hold on, Commissioner James.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I know that you sent us an email maybe like a week or so ago about monies that the chamber still needed. Have you gotten anywhere with that request?
Not as of today.
Okay, and what was an additional $5,000? What was those $5,000?
Well, I asked for the 5 that was already in the queue for the visitor guide. Right. But obviously that's not happening right now. I'm just trying to keep our doors open. Like I mentioned, if I had a building, we'd be mortgaging it. People are not paying their dues nationwide, worldwide. We lost all our sponsor money. So for this last quarter, I don't even think we got 10% of our income. So we're just trying to keep the doors open. And I'm not the only one, like I mentioned. And I don't have the names, I asked for them, but there's 4 chambers in Florida alone that have closed. That's tragic because we're the lifeline. Once we're open, who do you think is going to be the front line with all these businesses, getting the information out, helping them post the signs of what they're doing inside, promoting them? I mean, I've offered every hotel a free e-blast for the, because they could only have the people that were allowed. They're not allowed to have visitors. So Like I was talking to Jessica over at the Spring Hill Suites, and she said she emailed every one of you. She's looking for essential workers wherever you can get them for her. I mean, are they coming in to clean the restaurants and the hotels and the buildings that she can house? Because they're just trying to find business anywhere. They have to meet their revenues to keep their doors open. And Diplomat closed, you know, Margaritaville closed, Arlay Meridian closed. We're just trying to keep it going.
So I guess my question is, the $5,000 that you were supposed to already receive, when are you supposed to receive that by? And I'm not sure if that's a Frank question. I'm sure it's a Frank question.
It's not a date.
Maybe you can
I
answer.
typically ask for it when I'm going to be producing the directory. And I actually had showed it to city manager. I was in the process of not doing just a little phone book thing, but doing actual visitor guide with a pull-out map of Dania Point, with a pull-out map of the downtown area, and allowing businesses that weren't chamber members to participate, because our city was moving in such a direction that I really needed to be more inclusive. So chamber members would get better prices and better, like their ads would show more. But I was trying to be all inclusive of the entire community. And obviously right now with most of the businesses closed or, you know, running on fumes, we can't be out soliciting for ads.
Right.
So I was going to reappropriate that because Friday I couldn't take a paycheck. We're out of money. And I'm not the only one in that position.
So, okay, so my question then is to Frank. If there was a request made, where are we in the process of the request made that was already supposed to be budgeted for the chamber?
Actually, may I answer that? Because I spoke to Randy yesterday. We have the $5,000 ready, but that document is not moving forward at this time. So as soon as Randy
What document is it moving forward?
The $5,000 that we're discussing with Randy, I had this discussion with Randy as early as yesterday. We discussed it, and Randy is not ready to move forward with that at this time.
So
I'm
Randy,
not ready to move forward with the project, but I need the funding to exist. So I'm asking to reappropriate it.
Well, the funding exists. So it's up to the commission.
Okay, is it something that the commission, can we give her those money so she can reappropriate the funding? It's funding that we've already budgeted. I mean, for me, I think that the chamber is just as important as the library. When the library comes and requests the funding and we say, oh, how much do they want? And I know these are different, you know, times, obviously, and we have to be conservative, but this is something that is a lifeline to a lot of our businesses. I mean, with 252, I think you said, businesses within the chamber, if we could have that added resource, even if it has to be reappropriated. And then on top of that, because since that is already budgeted and the funding was already there, I want to ask Frank, how much do we have in our contingency? Because I think these are the things that you know, is purpose for if we needed to have an emergency. This isn't anything other than, you know, helping our businesses, because as far as I understand, the city doesn't have a program for businesses and neither does the CRA. And so we understand why, because, you know, we're going through a hardship. And so the funding is kind of tight. So to expect, if we're going to have, all we can do is give information. If we're going to have programs, we're going to have to spend money. I know the city of Hollandale has allocated $500,000 to their businesses. I don't know if we're in a position to do that with our CRA or not, but I know that they're initiating a program, but you can't initiate programs without the funding. So we're not going to initiate funding for programs if we're not going to have programs. I think the least we can do is help our chamber survive so they don't have to shut down.
Commissioner James,
I'm not sure how anyone else feels about that.
I think this is a discussion that needs to be held offline at this time to see what can be done. We need to move forward. This is a presentation about what the status is.
But I'm asking for a request. I'm asking for the same request that the library comes and asks for. So it's something that, excuse me?
I understand you're asking for a request, but we're under presentations right now. We have a full agenda. We need to move forward. This is something that can be discussed offline with the city manager, who can discuss it with finance and discuss it with Randy.
Well, I don't listen. I haven't spoken a lot, and every time I speak, it's that it's COVID and the full agenda. So I have the request that we at least need. It doesn't take a long time. Either you all want to help the chamber or you don't. It's really that simple. I mean, so if we can give her the funding to allocate, so she can reallocate her money, that's a step in the right direction at least. The chamber is right here in front of us, asking us for help.
Can you just stop for a minute? We are not here to vote on this today. That's not what we're here to do. We are here, she's doing a presentation. This is something that should be discussed.
I understand that. But we do the same thing for the library. I want us to be consistent. If the library can come and they're not on the agenda to vote on something, and we can just give them the funding right away. There is no extra meetings or let's talk offline. We do it right there on the spot. This is the chamber. This is, it doesn't hurt me. It hurts our businesses.
We are in different.
That's what I'm saying.
We are in different times right now, and we're dealing with budgeting, with a lack of revenues. Everybody's dealing with a lack of revenues, including the city, not just the businesses, not just the chamber. Everybody. Therefore, I understand that. Appropriate time to be discussing this, especially when there's already ongoing conversations going on. And I'm going to move on to the next speaker.
Well, I already have a request, unless you're just denying my request, and I'm asking the rest of the commission.
I'm denying your request. I'm denying your request.
Is that not something that I can speak on like everyone else speaks on?
Well,
you can not allow me to have a conversation with the rest of the commission.
You spoke on it. You did speak on it, but she does have the right as the mayor to move on. But you made the request.
So just regard what Commissioner James is saying. She has the power to just disregard what Commissioner. I just want everyone to see how it is when Commissioner James asks for something versus other people when they ask for something. Because other people can ask for something, other people can spend 30 minutes speaking about stuff, other people can grant the library whatever they want to grant on the spot. But then when I'm asking the same treatment for the chamber, it's denied. So I'm sorry, Randy, I tried.
Commissioner Brandemar, you have a question?
Yes, to Randy, Mayor. Randy, you said you have 252 members. Are they all Dania businesses? How many are Dania businesses? I can't hear, Mayor.
Hold on. There we go. Randy, there you go.
Chicky, I would have to look into that, but I would say over 200 of them are in Dania. Like FPL is not in Dania, AT&T is not in Dania. So I do have businesses, they do business in Dania, they support Dania. Some of them live in Dania and their businesses are elsewhere. But the majority is in Dania Beach.
Oh, I didn't ever know what it was made up as. All right.
Also, Chicky, a lot of them are in that 33312 zip code that shows Fort Lauderdale, but really it's Dania. So
okay, I just for a point of interest want to make a comment though. I have to. I don't feel that you're getting a lot of cooperation from the businesses at the point. Do you have a specific person that goes out and real nice, have a cup of coffee with somebody there and say, these are the benefits to join the chamber? Or are you the only one that goes out there?
I am the only employee. I am the one that goes out there.
That's where the first thing goes wrong. You don't have anyone that goes out and asks them to join. You do it all. That's not good for our city.
Okay.
I do have the majority of the restaurants that are there, by the way. Over 90%.
And some of the businesses as well, correct?
Yeah, a lot of them aren't allowed to join from corporate because they would have to join every chamber in every city to have a business. Some of them join strictly at the opening for a ribbon cutting. But, I have Aspen Dental. I have almost all the restaurants. And I have Ulta.
Well, does anybody know how to get it so that it would help her when a store opens up and they say, oh, corporation got to make the decision? Does anybody know how?
Also, one more thing, Chicky, Kim Butler also assists. She tells them they should join the chamber when she's out talking to them. So she's also, promotes us. Rosita at the Restaurant Association. If they're in our community and not a member, she makes a suggestion. But it's not for everybody, and you can't make them.
You need help. That's what I'm getting at. You really do.
I want to say thank you, Randy, for helping me out as well, because I know we were working together to contact the various businesses to get some sense of what their thoughts were on opening at different levels, 25%, or how much lead time they need, that sort of thing. And I do appreciate that. I would encourage you to continue discussions with the manager and can be done. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, city manager. Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Our next item is an update on additional waste pickup in Maine. Assistant City Manager first.
Yes, I wanted to see if Fernando was ready to present, or Candido. If not, I could certainly present. I just wanted Fernando there, or Candido?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, residents. Good evening, Mayor, here, commissioners, city team. This is Candido Sosa Cruz, Assistant City Manager. I'll be providing a brief update on the additional bulk waste pickup starting May 25th. The city has coordinated with Waste Management, our collection contractor, and implemented an additional bulk pickup in the month of May, which is this month. The additional pickup will start Monday, May 25th, and it will go on until Saturday, May 30th. The additional bulk pickup is scheduled the same day that your normal bulk pickup is scheduled. For instance, if your bulk pickup is scheduled on Monday, May 11th, your additional bulk pickup is Monday, May 25th. The additional bulk pickup is 14 days from your regular date of pickup. If your regular date of pickup is Tuesday, May 12th, 14 days later, 2 weeks later, May 26th, the same Tuesday, your additional bulk pickup will be scheduled. So again, there's an additional bulk pickup for the month of May, and it is 2 weeks after your regular day of bulk pickup. Also remember that June 1st is the start of hurricane season. As part of your regular hurricane season preparedness and maintenance, cut back all trees and weak branches. And also remember that pruning is vital to hurricane damage prevention. If anyone has any questions about hurricane season, about bulk pickup, please feel free to give us a call at our general customer service number, 954-924-6800. The map with the schedule for the additional bulk pickup in May is on our front page of our city website. If you scroll down on the front page, the additional bulk pickup schedule is on there. And it is also on our city Facebook page. That's it, Manager. Thank you very much.
Yes, I wanted to add that this is what Candido is referring to. And this is something that we passed out this past Friday. The schedule, will pass it out again May 22nd at the distribution. And all this information is on our website and also on social media, so all the residents know when their extra pickup will occur. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. Next item is food distribution initiative. City Manager Garcia.
Yes, I wanted to just let you know that we had a very successful food distribution. The partnership with Redland Ahead with the Adopt a Box. We ended up passing out 820-pound boxes. It was a total team effort. As you know, many of you were there. We were able to raise $20,000 in a period of a week. And it was a true testament to our partnership with Dania Beach Casino, Kimco, all the rest of the organizations that donated, the city staff that donated their time and also their monies. And we got this really down, and we're ready to do it again now, May 22nd. And we're grateful to all of you and the volunteers and everybody that really made this event the success that it was. And we'll be doing it again, May 22nd at the casino at 9 a.m., partnering with Farm Shin. Thank you.
Thank you. And that food distribution last Friday was a real success. I think that it worked very well, very efficient. Everybody was talking about how efficient it was. So I appreciate all the donations that you got for that. Thank you very much. No proclamations. Next is citizen comments. I have a couple that were submitted, but they're with regard to one of our agenda items, 9.2. So we'll hold off until we get there. Let me just see if anybody has their hand raised in the audience. I don't see any hands raised. Okay. We'll move on to public safety report. We have Chief Martin. Bob earlier.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen an uptick in burglaries in the southeast section. So we deployed our crime suppression team to work overnight in that area, and we located a subject riding a bicycle through the neighborhood, and we stopped him when he was leaving. He did not commit a burglary in our presence, but he did have several warrants for burglary. He had a window punch in his backpack and gloves. So we have a feeling that that was him. Since the last meeting, we have continued to have personnel at our boat ramp and the beach. On the weekends, there are 2 deputies at the 30th ramp in order to control traffic and monitor social distancing. We also continue to have 2 deputies at the beach, one to keep the entrance closed and the other posted by the quarterdeck to prevent anyone from walking onto our beach. We have had no issues thus far. We continue to work with code and parks to address any violations of the orders in place at our parks and restaurants. There were a few restaurants that were allowing patrons to eat outside. Those places were issued warnings and have been compliant since then. As the manager said, the food giveaway was a great success due to the teamwork from everyone involved, and our traffic deputies did a phenomenal job setting the pattern. It ran extremely smooth. The homeless complaint we got over by the Walgreens off of Sheridan, I sent out an email earlier. We were able to print out warnings and a notice, and we placed it on the belongings that were there. And if they're not removed by the 17th, then we'll remove them with code. That completes my report.
Thank you. I don't see any hands raised, so thank you very much, Chief. Chief Pellister.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, all their staff, and most importantly, all the citizens. Before I start, I just want to say how happy I am and blessed I am that I get to work with this great team of the City Manager and all the staff, all the city leaders, the Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. You guys are amazing. You guys have been ahead of the curve compared to every other city I've worked with. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you. And that being said, I can just tell you that we continue to keep our personnel safe at the station, making sure that they have all the proper gear that they need so they can respond safely and healthy to all the calls in Dania Beach. We're always monitoring the nursing homes in our area, checking them 3 times a week. And we had a good turnout at the food drive, and we'll have another good turnout at the next food drive. So that's all I have for tonight. Again, I want to say Thank you. And one more thing I do have is we're working on the hurricane plan, and we'll be putting that out shortly. Thank you.
Chief Minister, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Hopefully, have you been receiving any calls with people that have symptoms related to COVID?
Yeah, we get those calls, and those are automatically when our dispatch takes a call, we get automatically notified so that we can have the proper gear. But we don't have as many in Dania as compared to Hollywood. There isn't, so we're very blessed. But I'm very grateful that our citizens that do call and have symptoms, they tell us ahead of time so we could take the proper precautions.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next we have the consent agenda. Do we have any polls?
7.3.
Any others? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7.3.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can't hear you, Bill.
Muted.
We can't hear him.
Okay, yes, approved, yes.
Any opposed? All right, motion. City Attorney?
7.3, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the city. What happened?
No, go ahead.
Okay, authorizing the city manager to obtain supplemental plan review, inspection, and administrative services from CAP Government, Inc., authorizing such purchase to be made from the building funds approved annual budget appropriations, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, continued from the April 28th commission meeting of this year, sponsored by Community Development.
Awesome, thank you. I pulled this item. I did have a chance to dig a little bit into the contract and all the services that CAP provides for us. I do know that this is a 3-year with 2 one-year option contracts. I would like to see if we could make that a 1-year contract with 2 one-year options, as that will still be a collective of 3 years. I do know that the reason CAP came on was because of Dania Point. And we heard the last meeting that the department wasn't going to get any busier than it currently is. It actually, what CAP and SPO and those the trailer on the property of Dania Point, all of those things were brought forward by our previous community director, development director, and it wasn't as busy as he anticipated. So I've had conversations with the current community development director. Oh my gosh, it's a tongue twister. And I wanted to go over this option just to see that we not get locked in. I do know that Frank is fairly new here, but before he got here, we were supposed to receive emails that would tell us, or a table that would tell us when these contracts expire and the length of the contract for all of the contracts. We haven't received that yet, but I do know that for us to be fiscally responsible and understanding the challenges that we are going to face with COVID, I'm not comfortable giving a 3-year contract, which in the past has cost us $1.2 million each year. On top of that, I looked at the rates with Broward County versus CAP. Although CAP is cheaper than Broward County, they bill us far more hours to do the same job that Broward County is doing. So I know that we may need the supplemental contract right now, and having that long of a contract that benefits CAP as well, because other cities will be looking to piggyback off of the contract, just like we piggyback off of the current contract that we're under that expires next month. So that is my request to the board to reduce it to a 1-year contract with 2 1-year or amend it to 1-year contract with 2 1-year options. And I would like to ask the community development director, does she find an issue with that request? Does she think that CAP would be okay with that type of request, or would it cause a lot of confusion with the contract? Is Eleanor here?
Yes. Hi, Commissioner.
Hi, Eleanor. How are you?
CAP is providing us an essential service. It's really important that we have them to ensure our buildings are safe. They were the lowest responsible bidder. I think 3 years guarantees the continuity of our department. I would recommend approving it as is.
So do you think there would be?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask either Eleanor or the city manager if you could let me know what was the RFP for? Was it for a 3-year contract?
The RFP wasn't specific. Go ahead, manager.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Eleanor. I'll follow up after you're done.
Okay. It wasn't specific on how long. It was more of the services and rates is what we were looking for the proposal. The agreement is really what the city requires.
And the bid itself came in based upon a 3-year contract. Is that correct? I mean, I'm trying to understand. I mean, because I know they gave us a lower rate than everybody else, but then on top of that, it was negotiated to a further lower rate. So my concern, if you only do this for a year, if we do it for 3 years, we're locked in at a particular rate. If it's every year, then every year there's potential that the rate can go up. Am I right?
That is true.
Okay.
Eleanor, are we not focused on a phasing out of CAP? I know before CAP, we only had Broward County, and a lot of that work was being done by, our own employees along with Broward County. Is there a plan to phase out CAP, or do you see CAP being here forever? Because I know a lot of the conversations are going to be based, especially with budget shortfalls, with the amount of employees that we have and possible cutting of employees or getting rid of employees, or whatever we would have to do in that extreme circumstance. And I do understand that with a 90-day notice or something like that, you could cancel the contract. That's a lot of money to give for a possibility of 5 years. So it's not just a 3-year contract. Unless we take away the 2 1-year options, that's a lot of money per year when when our inspection rates hasn't been as high as we thought they were going to be. And if you see, as you stated last commission meeting, that we have peaked, we are not going to get any busier than we currently are. Hello?
If I may, Mayor?
Go ahead, Anna.
So I think what's key here, I think we could do some sort of hybrid. We want to set up Eleanor and Corinne for success. This contract is in place via a procured RFP that was done to the highest standards of procurement. To lock in a 3-year contract, not just at the rate that was what was received as the lowest responsible bidder, but on top of that, to be able to go back and reduce it further by more than $100,000. I think we should definitely lock in this contract at 3 years. At the end of the day, we don't pay for what we don't use. As I speak to all the developers that are currently working with us and even future developers, not just are they only satisfied with the work of our team, but they're extremely satisfied with the work of CAP. So it's a win-win because we're not tied into paying for what we're not going to use, but it's a very, very, very low rate that we've been able to not just get, but then renegotiate to save an additional 10%. So you at least want to lock in those 3 years.
Commissioner Harris has his hand up as well. Commissioner Harris?
He's muted.
Hold on. Trying to unmute you. You're muted. There you go.
Got me now? Okay. And I agree with the CAP presentation and the work that they're currently doing for the next 3 years, because if you think about it, over the next 3 years, we'll have the final build out of Dania Point, final build out of hopefully the Spirit project, the build out of the Serenity project, the build out of the Avid Hotel what's already permitted, the build out of the J. Milton project, the Stellar Homes projects, and numerous other projects that we don't even know about that are currently in the pipeline. So I think it's very prudent at this time to keep CAP government on. And like the manager says, we don't pay for anything that we don't use, and they have an established relationship with the current developers in many parts of town. So I think it's a win-win for us to keep it steady. And we didn't know that we were going to get a curve thrown at us like the COVID virus. So with their help and our ingenuity, we should be able to go through the next couple of years just fine, keeping CAP.
Just fine.
Assistant City Manager, Candido? Yeah, unmute you.
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I also want to add a few that are probably missed, that going back to what the Community Development Director said, that these services are essential. And I want to add to that because we don't have a building official as an employee. We don't have a structural inspector as an employee. We don't have an electrical inspector as an employee. These are contractors that we use depending on the volume of work that comes in. These positions are extremely important. If CAP is not providing these services, we would still need a contractor to provide the services. When we put out the RFP, it was CAP and a second firm that applied. The second firm had higher fees, higher hourly rates than CAP. The alternative would be Broward County, which we currently are using. Broward County has higher fees and higher hourly rates than CAP. So these type of contracts, and the city attorney could weigh in, they're typically 3 years because of the complexity, the services, and again, it's to our benefit to lock in a rate now for the next 3 years, and already having the benefit of, for the next 12 months, having a discounted rate. So I would definitely recommend approving a 3-year agreement with CAP.
Thanks. Can I comment?
Well, Frank DiPaolo also, he can't raise his hand, but he sent me a note to let me know that he needs to speak on this as well. Just let him speak and then we'll get back to the commissioner. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay. Okay, Frank.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that on the financial and budgeting side of things, the building permit operation is a self-supporting operation, and that the revenue that's collected goes directly toward the cost of inspections and all that activity. So if the activity isn't there, then the city won't utilize CAP. So it's not that there's a minimum cost that the city is going to be paying them no matter what kind of building activity there is. So the demand of the building function will drive the actual utilization of the contractor. So if there is no demand, then utilization will correspond to that. So I just wanted to make it clear that this operation, it won't have any effect on the general fund, and that this building permit is its own separate fund within the city that's self-supporting and self-sustaining.
Commissioner James?
Yes. Well, I'm not arguing that CAP isn't important and that we don't need them as being supplemental. That's not something that I am arguing. I am saying that we need more flexibility with a shorter contract time. And when I keep hearing that CAP is cheaper, listen, I've gone through, because I've asked the finance director to send me about 2 or 3 years worth of invoices from both CAP and Broward County. So understand, even though CAP is cheaper per hour, it takes them longer than it would for another company to do it. So for them in Broward County, it's taking them a longer time to even do it. So it equals out to the same. Even though they have a cheaper cost, the money still end up at 1.2, just like Broward County. It takes Broward County less hours to get the same job done. So when we're talking about hours and what the rate is per hour, understand they're still charging us for more hours of that rate than what another company would do it. So I just ask you all to look deeper into that. And that's my motion. You can vote it up or down, but my motion is to, I will either entertain 2, but 3 years with a 2-year extension is a bit much for me. So if no one else, that would be my motion. Would it make you guys more comfortable if I went for 2 instead of 3? Or
Personally, I think it should go as is, and we do have the ability to get out of the contract if we give 90 days notice. So if that's in fact the case, I don't see why we don't do the full 3 years, since that's what was negotiated, and we're getting a very good rate at this point. If we really need to get out of the contract, we can get out of the contract.
I'll wait before I do my motion because I see so much.
Commissioner Brandon Marty?
Mayor, are there penalties when you do something like that?
Yeah, Anna or Candido, can one of you answer that question, please?
I would put that on the city attorney in regards to that, but I just want to emphasize what Frank is saying. This is a separate fund for building. So no usage, no need for that money to come out. But in regards to getting out of the contract, attorney, Tom?
Yes, there's a termination by the city for convenience. It's not 90 days. On 15 days advance written notice, you can terminate.
Okay.
No reason.
No penalty.
There you go.
Yes, correct. No penalty whatsoever. Also, remember that the option is the city's option to renew for 2 years if it chooses to exercise it. Not CAP's option, it's the city's option.
Right, correct.
Frank, did you want to add something? Sorry, because he can't raise his hand, but he's shooting me text that he's able to.
I have no more questions.
Thank you.
I'm okay.
Frank?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
So my motion, I guess I'm going to make a motion. My motion would be to reduce it for 1 year. So we would have 2 years of a contract and 2 years as an option, 1 year contract. And that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Brandimore,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Can't hear you, Commissioner. You're on mute. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. You're still muted. Unmuted.
No.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmond,
No.
Mayor Llewellyn.
No.
Motion failed 2-3.
Do we have another on this item? Anybody?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Another motion on the actual on the item itself.
Oh, okay.
But we have
Motion to approve, what is it, 5.3?
7.3.
Motion to approve 7.3?
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? I'll second it. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimore,
No.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No.
Vice Mayor Osmond,
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
No bids and requests for proposals. Now we're on to public hearing.
Item 9.1, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Florida approving the request made by 2900 Southwest 45th Dania Beach LLC by rezone RZ 10319 and flexibility unit allocations OT 419 for properties located at 900 Southwest 45th Street in the City of Florida as legally described Exhibit A copy of which is attached to this ordinance. The current zoning classification of the properties from single-family 6,000 residential district, RS 6,000, to planned residential development district, PRD 1, subject to certain restrictions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing for an effect date. First reading of this ordinance continued from the April 28, 2020 commission meeting sponsored by Community Development. this is a quasi judicial hearing. So anybody who is going to speak, well, first of all, the commission, if you would disclose if you've been contacted either for or against by an applicant or an objector, that has to be disclosed under the Jennings rule.
I've been
contacted.
Yeah, I think we probably all have been. I've been contacted by both.
Okay. And then this is gonna be our approach to how to do this, but I have to swear in the city staff, the applicant, and anybody else who's going to speak. If we have people from the citizens, I will swear them individually. But I'll ask Corinne and anybody else who's going to speak from the city. Who else is there that's going to make a presentation? I think Mr. Stinilowski is there. Am I right?
Saw him there earlier.
Is he here?
Yes, it's labeled 7-0.
7 Oaks. Okay, Mr. Stinilowski, are you present?
He's muted at the moment.
Okay, somebody has.
He's unmuted.
Okay. All right.
Yes, we are present.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to swear from the testimony you will give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'm going to ask Corinne to first respond.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Stinilowski to respond.
Yes.
Whoever's with Stinilowski to respond.
Yes.
Is there anybody else speaking on this? Hello? No? Okay. Then, Corinne, please proceed.
Good evening, commissioners. This is a first reading of a rezoning and application for 4 flex units for the property at 2900 Southwest 45th Street. And I do have a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation that I can make if you'd like to do that. I would have to be enabled to do so, though.
You
So,
should
there I am.
to now, Corinne.
Okay, thank you.
I think we should see the presentation. This is the first reading, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So I think we should see the presentation. So Frank, what do I do here? Or can you do it?
Corinne should be able to have the share button now. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let's see. My presentation is missing, but let me see if I can get it to Frank.
What happened? You can't make the presentation?
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Hold on. Can you see my screen right now?
We see you.
I see you.
Oh, I see. My PowerPoint has been removed. I have the applicants for some reason, but I can, if I can pull up my PowerPoint, I can at least make my presentation. Sorry. We're all where we needed to be this far.
It was me though.
I apologize, but I can run this pretty quickly. This is first reading of the rezoning for the project. It is currently, the existing zoning is single family, which is RS 6000. The applicant's proposing to change it to the PRD 1. There are no open code violations on the property. The applicant, we have asked that the applicant reach out to the public, which is pretty standard at this point. And the applicant has had several meetings with the adjacent development to the west, which is the Hidden Harbor community. And he started reaching out to them in 2018. He had a few meetings with them. He has also met with the surrounding neighborhood February 18th in 2020.
And he sent out notices on March 25th and again on March 20th. And I know the applicant's prepared to discuss that a little bit further detail when he makes his presentation. The property itself is located on the south side of Dania Canal, north of Southwest 45th Street and west of Southwest 28th Terrace. The property is approximately 2 acres net size, but when you go to adjacent right of way, it is closer to 2.5 acres in size. And the request is for rezoning and flex application.
Does the applicant want to make his presentation? And then I have a number of questions. So.
Okay, let me bring up that then. Okay, Monica's in here too. Okay, let me bring up his presentation. We can go from there. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, this is the applicant's presentation. Manny, if you want to make the presentation or speak and tell me when to change the slides, I can do that for you.
That would be great, and I would truly appreciate that. Thank you.
So the aerial photo is up right now for your presentation.
You can't see anything currently, Corinne. All we see is your desktop.
Yeah, we don't see on this end either.
Right. Really? Are we getting better?
There's the aerial.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the first image. That's the first image, Corinne. Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, can I begin?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Manny Sinilowski. I am the architect for this project, Seven Oaks. My physical address is 1800 Eller Drive, Suite 500, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As you heard from Corinne, the property has a gross acreage of 2.55 square feet and 2.55 acres, I'm sorry. And in effect, it is on the south side of the Dania Cutoff Canal. As you can see in this image, to the west of us, there's an existing community, Hidden Harbor, and we had meetings with them quite a bit back in 1918 and into 2019. It's important for you to know that the property is accessed both directly from 29th Terrace, which is shown in green, leading up from Griffin, and you make a right directly into our entry, or you could go literally from the east, from Southwest 28th Avenue, which kind of zippers back and becomes Southwest 28th Terrace. And it's a little bit more complicated because as opposed to one turn, you would have to complete 4 turns to get there. Corinne, if you can go to the next image. We want to show you why we're emphasizing 29th, because similar to 28th, it's a full intersection. Anybody traveling east can actually turn left onto 29th. If you're traveling west, you can turn right into 29th, heading north, and the same thing, leaving 29th either to go east or to go west. It's a full intersection. And some didn't realize that that was possible from a traffic standpoint. Corinne, if I can ask you to go to the next image. What you'll see there is that we're purposely showing and highlighting the access through 29th, and then you make a right and you're on 45th. It's important for you to know that 45th basically dead ends both to the east. It dead ends on 28th Terrace, and to the west, it dead ends. You cannot go out from 45th Street to Southwest 30th Avenue. So it's a relatively simple, if you will, U-shaped operation in terms of traffic to arrive there. The simplest way to arrive there, nonetheless, is through 29th, but you have, if you will, the ability to go to enter from 28th. If I can ask you to go to the next image, Corinne. The purpose of this image is to show you that there currently exists a exit egress from our neighbors to the west from Hidden Harbor, so that emergency vehicles can leave their community and literally get out back onto Southwest 45th. Our property doesn't affect that whatsoever. You can see our property is in red, and we're not impacting at all that emergency egress exit for the community to the west. As far as to the east of us, the existing Southwest 28th Terrace, that right-of-way today currently has a 9-foot wide paved section. We are proposing to literally dedicate property on the east of our property so that that right-of-way can grow from the current 25 feet to a 40-foot right-of-way. What that would do is allow at least a 20-foot paved section only for the benefit of the neighbors that live on 28th Terrace, and only for the use of emergency vehicles leaving our project. Our project never intended and doesn't intend to use Southwest 28th Terrace for ingress, or for that matter, for egress. Only for emergency vehicles that would have to leave, if you will, our property from the east side, would they then use a expanded Southwest 28th Terrace. Again, the fire marshal requested that existing 9-foot pavement be increased to a minimum of 20 feet because that is a building code requirement for emergency drives. Corinne, if we can go to the next image. It is a really simple schematic, and it's only to show you that the project in totality has 16 homes. Conceivably, we could come to you and ask you for 12 homes because the zoning today would allow 12 homes. We are asking for 16, and the combination of products is literally 12 townhomes in 2 buildings, 6 and 6. And that's what you see on the lower part of the imagery, 2 6-townhome buildings for a total of 12, and then 4 single-family, freestanding residences that literally would take advantage of the water's edge in terms of an amenity. That is the totality of the project. It's a fully residential project. Every townhome would own not only the townhome, but the lot that it sits on. Every single-family home would own not only the home, but the lot that it sits on. So altogether, we have 16 fee simple, single-family homes, 6 of them bundled in one building, 6 of them bundled in the other, and then 4 freestanding single-family homes. The next image gives you a bit more detail about the site plan, and I'm not going to try to give you any great detail, but I do want to tell you that the smallest townhome under air has about 1,755 square feet. When you add the 2-car garage and you add covered entries and covered porches, you're adding about 500 square feet. The smallest townhome is 1,755. The next one is 1960. The next one is 2183. And those are the end units in the townhomes that actually have side yards, front yards, backyards. When you add 500 feet to the 2183, it gives you a total building in a 4-bedroom townhome of almost 2,600 square feet. The single family homes begin at 2,507 under air. Again, when you add the 2-car garages, when you add balconies, when you add covered entries, you're adding at least another 500 square feet so they can exceed 3,000 square feet. If I can ask you, Corinne, to go to, actually stay there 1 second, please. And maybe it's difficult to see, but the drive that you see to the right, which is literally 28th Terrace, shows how we would literally increase the width of that existing pavement section to 20 feet, because we are dedicating 15 feet of our property towards a right-of-way, which would make that right-of-way fully accessible to emergency vehicles to serve the community, particularly the single-family homes that are there to the east of us, and would only serve us going out for emergency vehicles. And we can control that because this project is intended to be gated. There's a gate literally on the west side, and the frequency of that gate would be had by the fire department so they can control how they leave the community if there's an emergency vehicle there. The front entrance to the project is on the west side, on the left-hand side, on the bottom, if you will. And that is also gated for ingress and has the ability for visitors that in effect don't get through to the residents to be able to turn out and escape without having to go through the community. There is a major preserve, and I'm going to ask you now, Corinne, to go to the next image, which occurs literally at the south end of the property. That preserve is intended to be retention. That preserve has a significant amount of amazing landscape proposed with material that is intended to stay in retention areas such as cypresses. And that, in effect, creates a significant buffer literally to the south. To the east, the buffer is basically that we're not using Southwest 28th. To the west, the buffer is that existing emergency drive that the community to the west of us uses. And then to the north, we are literally on the canal. If we can go to the next image, this gives you a sense of the massing of the buildings. This happens to be the townhome building, and I apologize that the colors and the materials aren't reading well. It seems to be a little bit compressed, but suffice it to say, you can see that every townhome, in effect, has a two-car garage. You can see that the 4 townhomes in the center are split into double twos, and each 2-unit shares a covered entry, and the end townhomes, in effect, have side entries that benefit from side yards. You can see the image on the bottom of this building is the side of the unit townhome on the end of the building. The next image represents the backside, if you will, of the townhome. And you can see that balconies, covered patios, and for that matter, scale very similar to the community to the west, and the 2-story single-family homes that exist in the community is what we're looking to stay in context with. In the next image, you see the single-family home. Again, this single-family home, it could be up to 3,000 square feet and 2-story, including the 2-car garage, including balconies, including covered entries and patios. The buildings are intended to be fully compliant with the building code as it relates to hurricane velocity zone. The buildings intend to be fully efficient in terms of energy use and, for that matter, water consumption. And the basis, if you will, of the 16 homes in terms of a price point is right at about $500,000. And some will be a little less, some will be a little higher, but that is the marketing strategy, and we believe that the market has demand for this kind of product, particularly because it's only 16 homes, particularly because, in effect, it would be a gated community. Something that I did not mention before is that we've conversed with the city about the possibility of us granting an easement for the benefit of the community, where the community's drainage could literally go through our property, whether it's on the drive, if you will, on the west side of our property, or whether it's literally going up 28th Terrace and then turning into our property. But there was an interest by the city to use our property as a gateway for drainage into the canal. And we're more than happy to do that. It's a matter of the city guiding us as to whether that drainage easement should be on the east end or should be on the west end. So in addition to the improvements that we're doing to Southwest 28th Terrace, which again, we only intend to use for emergency purposes, and it's only for egress of emergency vehicles, we are also dedicating width on Southwest 28th. We are dedicating width on 45th, so that 45th can actually be a full 50-foot right-of-way. And we're giving you an opportunity literally to use our community as a gateway for drainage into the canal to benefit literally the whole quadrant that's to the south of us, to the east and west of us. The next image is just a very quick synopsis of many efforts that we did, some of them through your office, through the city, where you have sent notifications to neighbors that are within 450 feet because they're required by this process. But we actually did have a community meeting that we invited every resident within 450 feet as early as February 18th. We had 3 participants in that meeting. 1 or 2 of them may be on the meeting virtually. That evening after that, the 19th, we actually attended a P&Z hearing, and we had 2 neighbors at that P&Z hearing, and we've addressed the concerns of those 2 neighbors without any reservation whatsoever. Unfortunately, I missed the meeting of the 25th. You reviewed this, you denied it. I came back, and I'm still tremendously grateful that you granted a reconsideration, and that reconsideration, in effect, caused us to communicate directly with the speakers that spoke that evening of February 25th against the project. I can grant you and give you copies of the UPS receipts that every letter that was sent out to every neighbor that spoke that evening, in effect, was delivered. I have that, and I can certainly share that with you. We took notes of who the speakers were from listening to your audio-visual reports, and we corresponded with every neighbor that spoke that evening, asking them to give us an opportunity to speak to them. We gave them various dates, various times. Unfortunately, we did not hear back. We did another mailing to everybody, including those neighbors, on the 20th of April. Anybody within 450 feet, asking them to allow us an opportunity to either speak with them over the phone, to email with them, to do virtual meetings. We were under the impression that we could not meet and should not meet in person with anyone, so we did it that way, and candidly included in that letter drawings that are being, considered tonight to make sure that everybody had the same information. We were scheduled to the meeting of April 28th. That meeting was continued to tonight, and tonight here we are. And tonight's meeting obviously has been properly notified, and there's a subsequent meeting that is also properly notified. So with that, I just want to take you to the last image, Corinne, and that is the synopsis. You have the traffic study. At the end of the day, when everything is said and done, we are adding eight trips in the morning peak hour. And typically the morning peak hour is between 7 and 9 o'clock. We are adding 8 based on the 16 homes that we're proposing. And in the afternoon, which is the afternoon peak hours, which is between the hours of 4 and 6, we're adding 12. That is the extent of the traffic impact. I also want to add that one of our neighbors who came to the P&Z meeting had asked us to follow through with Broward County to make sure that as it related to sewer, and we actually reviewed both water and sewer, that the county had literally no objection or concern, or for that matter, would be an issue in any future permitting with them. And the county responded favorably towards the project, and the neighbor was satisfied and responded favorably in terms of the responses that the neighbor received. With that, I will close our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
I have several questions for you, Manny.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you pull this down? Because I can't tell if anybody has a hand up or anything otherwise. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Okay, I have several questions for you. I have some concerns. You keep saying that you've talked to the neighbors. I've spoken to the neighbors, many of the neighbors, and they have not had conversations with you. That's what they told me. Neighbors on both sides. I did not speak to anybody in Hidden Harbor because Hidden Harbor is a totally separate entity. But I have spoken with the neighbors on 28th as well as the ones on 45th. None of them indicated to me that they had any conversations with you or anybody from this development. I have seen the letter that was sent out on the 20th of April. And all that letter says is to contact your office to discuss it if they have questions. There was not really any other outreach that I could see from that letter. And the reason why I say that this is an issue, and regardless of whether you want to tell us that people were fine with the things that you were telling them or not, I received and passed around, I sent it into Corinne as well, a petition from the neighborhood, people that live on those two streets in particular, with 85 residents who have signed in that neighborhood and said, no, I don't want this project. So I have some serious concerns about that. And I also know that neighborhood, and I will tell you that all of the streets over there are very, very small. They're narrow. There are no sidewalks. It is dark back there. There is hardly any lighting. There are a lot of issues with that neighborhood. And putting that many more homes there makes me incredibly nervous. It's not so much about the fact that it's only 16 homes. The neighborhood itself is generally all single family homes except for Hidden Harbor. And Hidden Harbor, like I said, is a totally different animal. It's a separate group of homes that is private and gated and does not impact anybody over there right now. 28th is 28th Terrace, I think it is really just a one-way road. I actually drove down there before I came to the meeting tonight, and it was very difficult for me to turn around at the end of the road, turn around and come back out because you can't turn around there. So I understand that you're saying that the main entrance is going to be on the other side, on the north or the west side, but it's still very concerning to have that many homes that close to other single family homes on that same street. It's a dead end. There's a lot of dead end streets there because they all go up to the cutoff. And I have serious concerns about that, both for EMS, fire trucks. I'm concerned about some of the parking. I understand you have garages put in there, but it's always a problem with parking for any type of townhouse or condominium unit where there usually is never enough parking, whether you've got your garages or not. I also know that the residents in that neighborhood are concerned about with the sewers. I know you said that you spoke to the city about that, or spoke to Broward County, especially Broward County Sewer. But there are problems there still, even though the sewer lines have essentially all the septic tanks have been gone for the most part. There's still a lot of flooding in that neighborhood. And the concern being that there would be even more flooding or potential for more flooding in that neighborhood as well, based on the use. The people in that neighborhood have advised me that they are more open to single family homes, which is, I guess, basically what it's zoned for right now, they would not be as angry about it. That's what I could say. If it were single family homes as opposed to townhomes, because that is what the bulk of that neighborhood is. You can respond if you like, but I see some other hands are up as well.
Madam Mayor, you tell me if it's better for me. I mean, I think it's easier if I respond to every question. Yeah, okay.
What do I have Commissioner Brandemar speaks? I know she has something to say, and then we'll go ahead and let you answer, okay?
You got it.
Okay.
Mayor, believe it or not, I'm gonna lower my hand because you voiced exactly what I've been told by this whole situation from the get-go. It hasn't been done right, as far as I'm concerned. And I also received that petition. Usually when there's they go back, the builders, like when Mealy does, they go back and they talk to the people. My God, the people come there and they support them like crazy. I don't see this happening at all on this here situation. So I just want to lower my hand because what you said, you were addressing my concerns too. So thank you.
All right. I don't see any other hands up. So go ahead, Manny.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, as it relates to traffic, again, the traffic report is pretty complete. Actually very complete. It was reviewed by your consulting traffic engineer, and they concur with us. And the final statement of that report basically says that the additional traffic is de minimis, that it has virtually no impact in the community vis-a-vis the 12 single family homes that could be there, the additional 4 homes that we're asking for. I also want to reiterate that we have no intention whatsoever of using Southwest 28th Terrace. For that matter, we in effect have agreed to give right-of-way so that Southwest 28th Terrace in effect is not a one-way. I'm glad you actually drove it, because by the time we give, we dedicate 15 feet of our property, and by the time we actually add pavement, because that's not a project that the city has intentions of doing anytime soon, we would not only give the land to the city in terms of a dedication to expand the right-of-way, we would build the complete section of the road really to benefit the homes that exist there, and in effect for that single lane drive not to be literally one way, so that you could literally go through and reach every one of the homes that in effect currently dwell along that right-of-way. As it relates to safety, I have to remind you that both your police department and, for that matter, your fire department, and in particular your fire marshal, reviewed these plans with us, and we worked closely with them to generate the type of pavement section and improvements to Southwest 28th and the turning radiuses that were necessary so that all emergency vehicles, all of them, whether it be EMS or whether it be fire, could get in, out, and not literally have any problem. The sewers, I can assure you, because the county has assured us, is not a concern. The way we intend to tie to the system is very capable of receiving the sewer capacity that we would generate. As for flooding, we really, really believe that there's 2 parts to that response. Number one, we have taken 100% of the possible drainage that our property requires and took care of it on site. We created this beautiful, literally green retention area with cypresses and all kinds of other plantings so that not a single drop of our water, not one drop of our water, impacts any of the existing community that's around us. Beyond that, we have offered, for the benefit of the community, because I really believe it may be the right answer for you all to come through our property and ultimately discharge rainwater into the canal. And we would be happy to offer that easement. So I really do believe that we've addressed these. As to the issue of meeting with the residents, I have to be honest with you. I cannot, unfortunately, force myself on the community. Maybe it had to do with the pandemic, but the reality is we have tried many times to literally meet with those that opposed us, only to get denied that opportunity. I didn't get a single response, not once, not twice, not 3 times, to communications that we had within 450 feet from our project from anybody that opposed the project. The 2 people that communicated with me, and maybe they're on the call tonight, or maybe they're on the virtual meeting, were satisfied and had no exception to the way that we communicated with them. And I actually made those calls just to make sure I could say that before this meeting. And both of them said to me, absolutely, you communicated with us. We actually are fine with what you're telling us. And one of them in particular said, I support the project. And that particular person lives on Southwest 28th Terrace, literally immediately across from our project. And the other person, in effect, lives at Hidden Harbor. And we responded to her concerns. She wanted to make sure that the emergency egress coming out of their community would not be impacted. I mean, you know, we've been doing this for 32 years. We've never, ever not been able to communicate with anybody. And candidly, I don't know how to communicate with someone that does not have any desire to communicate with me or with us. I am aware of the petition. The reality, we received a copy of it. I appreciate that your staff sent it to us. But the petition, other than having, 85 signatures say that they opposed the ordinance, candidly did not give me or us the opportunity to understand what it was that concerned them or what it was that in effect bothered them, so that literally we could address and we could resolve. Again, maybe part of this has to do with the time that we're in right now with the pandemic, but I can assure you that I'll be happy to communicate and speak to every single one of these individuals if they're willing to at least give me that opportunity. Unfortunately, I was not given that opportunity, and the people that did communicate with me, we communicated back, and they are in effect happy with the way that we communicated and addressed their concerns.
Okay. I will tell you my understanding. Well, I don't. Hidden Harbor, again, like I said, it's a different animal over there. It's a whole different community. If you look at this petition, I mean, it's literally almost every single address that I can see on Southwest 28th Terrace that has signed this petition. I don't know who you got on Southwest 28th Terrace that you spoke to, but if it's, I know who the person is that lives directly across from the property, or one of the people who lives directly across from the property. I know him personally, and I know he's against this, and he's one of the people that signed this petition. So and I understand that the time is difficult. I understand it is difficult to try to figure out ways to meet with people and have conversations with them, but that is a serious problem. And the fact that you're telling us that you have all these communications, but you have on there C.W. Thomas Park, which is a different neighborhood completely. So I'm not sure who you would have spoken to at C.W. Thomas Park.
Madam Mayor, I can give you the name and the address of the person that, in effect, because I received an email from that person. The address is 4432 Southwest 28th Terrace.
They've signed the petition. Again,
Well, I received a letter from Kevin Monahan, and I called Kevin this evening, and he was very comfortable with the communication that we had. So, it's interesting that he will tell me something and he will send me an email, and I don't know if you can see through your screen the email, but I have it in front of me, and then sign the petition that opposes the
I know. I understand what you're saying.
That happens, right? I guess that happens.
It happens. And I do know a couple of the neighbors there did tell me that they were not going to be able to come to the meeting tonight. So, yes, when I got the petition, I asked if they were going to appear, and they said that they were not going to be able to do that. And I think it had to do with the technology issue more than anything. So, in any event, this is, I don't see any other hands raised. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody on the line who is here to speak for or against this? I don't see any hands. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they want to add.
There is a hand up from a participant.
Where?
Oh, there was. They put their hand down. I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion on this or any other discussion?
There's someone with their hand up saying Noah S. or
Oh,
something
Noah
like that.
S.
You might want to look at it.
Sure, I didn't see that. That just came up. Noah S.
Yeah, I would need to swear him in, Madam Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, would you give us your name, please?
Yes, my name is Noah Slimak.
Okay, and your address?
I'm part of the development team. I work for the developer of Seven Oaks.
Okay, all right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, I swear.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I am very surprised by the information I'm listening to tonight. You know, we've been working very hard on this project for several years now, I would say, in very close contact with our neighbors in the area and with the city of Dania. You know, we are obviously pro-development. We are looking to basically improve the area, make a strong investment that will both improve the area and basically supply good housing and quality housing in an area where it's needed. You know, we again, I would say that I'm surprised with some of the information I'm hearing tonight, because as Manny has said, you know, we have made a consistent approach to reach out to our neighbors. You know, we've both made very strong efforts to have a good relationships with them. You know, I personally given several of my neighbors my personal phone number to reach out to me. I know Manny has done the same. We want to keep open lines of communication with all our neighbors. Again, what I'm hearing here tonight, that basically, you know, that there's been a petition signed. You know, it's very hard to interpret that document, because honestly, you know, and I don't know what the city attorney's thoughts are on this, but we don't know what arguments were sold to get people to sign that petition. You know, whether that document is being held in the person's hand, and what additional chatter might be said in that conversation that might encourage the person to sign it. It's very hard to know, you know. So again, you know, we are making honestly, it's a beautiful project. It's a beautiful project that has beautiful green areas. We are not cutting corners. It's a serious multifamily project with very, you know, with a top of the market, I would say, architecture. We're preserving a lot of the green areas in the property. It's gonna be beautiful. That's the honest truth, you know. And it's very frustrating to hear this when, again, as Manny has said, we've documented. You know, it's not that we have made empty approaches to contact these neighbors. We've recurringly, in many occasions, have documented instances where we're trying to reach out to these neighbors. It's obviously in the middle of this pandemic. It's very hard for me to come up to someone's door. I don't even know if that's legal in the current situation we were under lockdown until very recently. No, so short from going up to people's doors and basically speaking to them directly, we feel we've made a strong approach. You know, we've encouraged giving our open channels of communication. We've given them the means of how they can reach us. We made every attempt to reach them. And again, you know, it's very frustrating, because we've invested a lot of capital, and more than capital, we've invested a lot of passion and effort, which is what we do as developers. You know, and it's very frustrating to hear this reception from the city after we've really poured our heart into it, honestly.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I just would like to know, maybe from the developer or Corinne or anyone who has spoken with a lot of the residents. I've spoken to a few, but I would want to know what would the residents be comfortable with. That is an area that sooner or later is going to get redeveloped. I guess I'm trying to figure out if they are more so just against the rezoning because the developer wouldn't have to come and ask us for a rezoning. And I'm not sure if the residents will have a say so in that if they didn't have to, get a rezoning. But I guess I'm trying to figure out what would the residents be comfortable with some type of a redevelopment in that area that currently has an abandoned house on the property, or is this just a lost cause, or is just this development a lost cause with the residents?
I can tell you from my conversations with them that they're unhappy with the idea of rezoning the property. They had indicated to me that they would be okay with single family homes consistent with the types of homes that are there already. But they're definitely concerned about the number of units, the fact that there would be flex units allowed, that sort of thing. It has more to do with the rezoning, I think, than anything else. So if anybody else wants to speak to that.
Madam Mayor, I have some comments when it's appropriate, if I can.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Developing in South Florida is very expensive. Candidly, developing in the city of Dania Beach is not inexpensive. The reality is that there is a true cost for the land that in effect is being developed. And on top of that, there is a true cost for the 16 homes that are being built. The investment in the city of Dania before anybody moves in, before you have the opportunity to assess any taxes and benefit is over $5 million. And the reality is that doesn't seem like it's immense when you compare it to maybe large residential developments. But the reality is this is not a large residential development. And, we are looking to build homes that in effect are 2021 homes. And I understand that the community is predominantly single family to the south of us, because candidly, there's a canal just east of our immediate neighbors to the east. And then we have Hidden Harbor, if you will, to the west. And the reality is we're not doing anything different to what Hidden Harbor did. As a matter of fact, their density is a little bit bigger than ours when you consider the amount of units that they have and the amount of land that they have when you remove the marinas and the water. So, I think there's a fear factor, and the fact that none of the neighbors attended the meeting virtually is very similar to the way none of the neighbors responded to our requests. I appreciate the 85 signatures, and I appreciate that they shared that with you. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't appreciate the strategy because I think the strategy of, I don't want it, but I'm not going to speak to you is a pity. It's a pity because that's not who we are. That's not who NOO is. That's not who the developer is, because we build communities, and we've been building communities in South Florida and in Dania Beach for almost 32 years now. And candidly, it's difficult to respond to concerns when the concerns are not discussed. And I appreciate that they discuss them with you, and you are certainly a formidable representative of the community. But at the end of the day, they live there. We want to add homes to their community. We want their homes to be that much more significant. We want our homes to be that much more significant. And we were just not given the opportunity. Could we do 12 single family homes? Maybe not, because at the end of the day, there's a business model that needs to work. And in a world that we live in, it's very, very expensive to develop single family homes. And candidly, there's a misconception that a townhouse is not a single family home. The reality is, in the case of our townhome, the property owner is buying the home and the property that it sits on. Those have front yards, those have backyards, many of them have side yards. And what we're trying to do is come up with a product that is amazingly positive for the community, and at the same time reduces the risk of developing when it's so terribly expensive to develop quality homes in the community. And you know, I appreciate that they would rather have 12 instead of 16 because I think that that's what they've shared with you. But the reality is, if they understood what it is that we're doing with the 16 homes, maybe, just maybe, they could have a different opinion. Unfortunately, I really don't know that it's understood. What's understood is that we need to go through rezoning to go from 12 to 16. And it seems that the difference of 4 units is of concern or is of fear to our neighbors. And you know, we're not in the business of causing fear to anybody. With that, I'll be quiet and I'll listen.
It's actually, sir, it's the rezoning that's the issue. I'm going to call on you in a minute. I just wanted to make sure you knew it. I think it's the issue of the rezoning itself that is causing the concern for the neighbors more than anything else. Vice Mayor, you have your hand up? Oh. I'm hitting it. There we go.
Okay. All right. So let's try and move this boulder in the road, or we're all never getting home. So you have a project that seems like it's an attractive project, but you are trying to put it in a community that is saying, I don't want this project. And it's not just 1 or 2 people saying it. We can recognize when it's just a few dissenters that don't like development or something like that, versus an entire community that's saying, no, I'm not interested. I do not want this. This is not for us. Now, I can definitely sympathize with the predicament you're in. You know, you seem like very reasonable gentlemen who are looking to sit down and talk with the residents. Unfortunately, you're trying to build in a time of when there's been a global pandemic and nobody wants to be or feels safe to be within 6 feet of each other. So how do we resolve this? I mean, there needs to be some contact that happens, some sort of attempts to make this work, and it's going to have to involve the residents. I don't know that it will work, but I don't think there's any other way around this. So, Corinne, can I bring you in to the picture? Do you have any insight as to how this developer could how do we bridge this? Because I see what the problem is. The problem is that A doesn't want to or cannot talk to B, and it's because of these unusual circumstances, perhaps, because I really don't think they are all, you know, blockaded to the idea of talking to these gentlemen. It may just not be convenient. It's like we can't do the big meeting where we all say, come to this community center. You know, the developer brings some donuts and coffee and everyone sits around and talks shop until they come up with something that they can tolerate. And everyone gives a little give and take, because that's usually our recommendation, right? We say, no, go back out there, keep talking until everyone is a little bit happy and a little bit disappointed, because that's life. So we know this process. This is what we do. We work at it. We work at it because you're not going to get a commission who is here to represent the residents green light something that all the residents say, I don't want. So Corinne, do you have any ideas on how we can bridge this?
I mean, there are alternate methods. Instead of having a physical meeting with people in the room together. That would be like the Zoom call, something similar to what we're doing this evening. But because of the attendance this evening, I'm hesitant to say that the residents would be welcoming or able to participate since we have like a low participation rate this evening. That we tried the outreach, we asked Manny, then the applicant, to send out the mailed notice with the site plan and contact information, and that didn't seem to get any participation either. So, I mean, I'm leaning towards just getting more time so that we could do a traditional neighborhood meeting and everyone in the room together.
Is that an option to wait on it? Like, can it be continued?
From a city standpoint, I think that's always an option from a staff standpoint.
I mean, I can't imagine that people at least don't have questions. You know, like sometimes people have the question, well, why can't you build the 12 single family homes? Well, there's an answer for that. And like the gentleman said, you know, it's a business model, and there's reasons why from their end, they, to use the word of the night, literally can't do it. So sometimes when that's explained and they say, listen, this is what we can't do. We financially can't do this. But look, this is what we can. We can take out some of those units and maybe make a few more single family homes. And this is what we can do. There's an understanding that starts to take place. I don't know if you can replicate that kind of thing over Zoom. Maybe you can. Maybe we can do this because we all know each other. We have a rapport and a relationship. So I don't know if it's harder when you're taking a bunch of strangers and pairing them with some other strangers and trying to say, work it out. But, you know, it doesn't seem fair to either. It would be unfair to the residents to pass this thing that they're saying, hey, we don't want this. We don't like this. And it seems very, very unfair to the developer who says he's developed in Dania Beach before. I don't know a ton about him, but he seems to do good projects. This seems like a good project, but it seems unfair to him that he doesn't even get the opportunity to answer the questions and to negotiate and to try and meet at that middle, because that's what we do. So I was hoping you'd have more of an insight.
If I may, but my understanding, at least from a few of the residents, a few of the neighbors over there, is that the reason why they were not attending it had to do with technology. It was a technological issue.
What, like making this work on their computer?
Something to that effect, yes. There was a concern about the technology. That was what I was told. So, and I heard that from at least 3 neighbors. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you about that.
Well, but I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but in a week, we're when I don't want to jump ahead to the next conversation, but in a week, you're probably going to be able to be in small groups in the room. So, you know, maybe that is part of the answer, because in a week, this is going to look a little bit different, and at least give the guy a chance to be able to talk to the residents. I don't know that the residents are going to feel comfortable going to the community center in a small group, but you know,
there's some other hands up here as well. So, let me go, Manny, if you don't mind, I'm going to go through the other people that have their hands raised.
No problem.
Commissioner Harris.
Muted.
Please muted. Hold on. There we go.
Now?
Now we hear you. Go ahead.
I'm in agreement with the vice mayor on what she said, that these are unusually difficult times and we can't do what we've done in the past, and that's meet with residents and neighbors on a one-to-one basis in person, in a neutral ground where you can present your case, Manny. We can listen, the people can ask questions, and they kind of have to establish a relationship with you and get to know you, that you're not, you know, the enemy, and, you know, you're not the big bad developer that's gonna, you know, overrun their neighborhood. But I personally think that's what we should do, is that we should have a public meeting as soon as we can. If it takes 3 meetings, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, whatever it is, to make, like what Commissioner James said earlier, what are they comfortable with there? I know we need housing. Broward County is 100,000 units short on new housing, whether it be townhomes, condos, single-family homes, old homes, new homes. So, let's reach out to them and find out what they need to be comfortable. And, like the vice mayor said, move this boulder from the middle of the road and see what kind of compromise we can come to. That would be my suggestion, based on my past dealings with residents and neighbors, and before that on the planning and zoning board. We have dealt with these issues before and we have overcome them. So I think it would behoove all of us to, just keep at this and find out what is the best fit for that piece of.
Commissioner Brandon Murray.
Yes, they were afraid to talk to the mayor. They spoke with her. They let her know what they felt. I don't think they really want to speak with the developers. And as far as having smaller meetings, there's going to be in place that older seniors probably still for a long time have to stay home. That's what I'm thinking. And maybe they're going to be opening a new situation where they say, well, we really couldn't go there because you had too many people. And we are pro-development. I heard the man say, about being pro-development. We are. But then there are also people that will follow and sign a petition because they don't want to come out and speak. Sometimes they don't. They just like, and you know what proved it? What that one man did to this builder. Oh, I'm all for it. It's okay. But when push came to shove, Bill, he felt more comfortable putting his name on that paper. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's why you're leaders. That's why you're leaders, because there are followers.
City manager.
Yeah, I just believe in what the vice mayor has said, and we could, working with Corinne and the team, facilitate several meetings, not to exceed any groups of 10, to make this presentation and let the people of that community discuss with the developer what they believe should be the right number, or things that maybe the developer can give. I believe there's an opportunity for a give and take. At the end of the day, it could go nowhere, but at least we know that we are Dania Beach, and we try during these times to facilitate those small meetings, those several meetings, to be able to have that participation if that group of people feels that technology is a challenge, and that's why they're not here to participate.
James.
Yes. I spoke to a few of the residents, and I did ask, and I also spoke with Manny, and because that's the first question I always ask if we spoke to the residents. But he didn't get a response. So when I asked a few of the residents today why they hadn't responded, one was that they assumed that he was coming to physically meet in person, and they didn't want to, do the whole email or, communication and correspondence over technology. And another reason they said they just don't want the project, and that's why they just don't want to meet. And so I'm not in the business of wasting anyone's time. I know there is a tremendous compromise that is trying to happen at this minute, but I don't want to. I don't want to give false hope. I've been on this commission where, residents have come and they've cried. I mean, entire communities have come and they've cried over projects that they did not want, and we still passed them. And so I don't know if. I guess I would be okay if I knew that there could be a possibility of a change in what the residents would feel, but I don't know that the residents would change the way they feel if they're saying they just don't want the rezoning, period. They don't want the rezoning at all. So I don't know what meetings are going to necessarily accomplish in that retrospect, and I don't want to give, Manny false hope. I know that he's been here with 4 engineers. I spoke with him today, and it's been extremely difficult for a lot of our development community to be able to have confidence because we've gone through 4 engineers in the past couple of years. And so that's another thing that we have to look at. All of the time and the money that the developers are putting into these types of things. I don't want to string this along for 2 and 3 months when there isn't promise. There was promise with other projects, such as the St. Maurice project, when you had that, okay, we're willing to negotiate with the developer at that time. And they negotiated for years. But if there is no compromise on the behalf of the residents, if they're saying that they aren't going to meet, regardless if you can have 10 people or 50 people there, how does that change your mind? And I guess that's my question to you all. Okay, you go through this process and the residents still don't bend. Then what? Are you going to deny it, or are you going to approve it? That's kind of, you know, that's where I am with this, because it doesn't seem like the residents even want to speak at all to the developer. And you know, Manny was disappointed in that, saying that, you know, it's unfair that he doesn't even get to workshop it or see what the residents have to say. And I understand that, but you can't force the residents to come and speak with them either. So if we table this for how long, and how, you know, I don't know how much money that's going to cost the developer. That's not my fight, but I don't want to prolong it if there is no promise. And so I don't know if there is promise for the project as is. I don't even know if they're willing to negotiate with that, but I just don't want to waste time just because it looks a certain way that we're trying, but I don't want it to be like a false positive that we're really trying for something and the residents, and we come right back to the same exact spot a month from now.
Thank you. And I would echo that. I agree with you, because I honestly will tell you, I said in the very beginning, I have really serious concerns about this project and the location, and the way that it's being set up. And quite frankly, I don't know if there is something that could be done for a compromise here that would make me happy, in all honesty. And the comment that was said to me over and over again from the residents in that community who have signed this petition was they do not want the area rezoned. Some of the concerns were that they would be concerned that the property would get rezoned, and then let's say this project falls through and then it gets flipped, and now somebody else comes in and does something totally different. You know, things like that. I don't know that anything is going to change their mind at this point, realistically. And the fact that we got this petition and it's 85 people that signed it, and these are, I mean, it's that entire surrounding neighborhood. So that says a lot. And I understand that you don't know what was said to the individuals to get them to sign it, but it's a tight-knit community over there. And I feel like they will stand very strong together, whatever the situation is. So I tend to agree that I don't know that we might be wasting time. Go ahead, Manny.
Yeah. So what's amazing after this conversation is that we're still neighbors. Whether we build 16 homes or we build anything different, we're still going to be neighbors to the neighbors that are there. So just as a matter of, you know, a benefit for everybody, us meeting with the neighborhood is super important, because we're going to be neighbors. You know, unless somebody says to us, you know what, just sell it and get out of town, which is really not our intention. We want to be great neighbors. So if it means that tonight we need to ask you to allow us to come back in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, the world is going to be very different. We'll know what's open. We know what isn't. We'll know if we can meet, how many people can meet. And if I have to have 85 meetings because I'm only allowed to meet with one person at a time, I'm telling you that I'm prepared to do that. Okay. I'm not sure that you know, my client is going to be happy hearing that, but we've invested 2.5 years of a lot of effort. What I never told you, because it would flabbergast you, is that when we started, we were looking for 20 units. So we've already come from 20 to 18 to 16. And maybe nobody knows that, and maybe nobody really cares about that. But the reality is, if you will give us 2 weeks, we will come back in 2 weeks. We will see what the world looks like then and what we're allowed to do. We understand now that technology is not our friend when it comes to communicating with our neighbors. We understand that it'll only be person to person. When we're allowed to do that, we'll be happy to do that. And at a certain point in time, we're going to realize that we're either progressing or not. And the best I can do is to tell you that I want to gain the trust of my neighbors. I want to also be able to trust my neighbors. Okay. And the only way to do that is literally to communicate with them. So if you will give us an opportunity to come back in 2 weeks, and maybe 2 weeks, the world isn't ready for us to meet person to person, then maybe we need to come back 2 weeks after that. And if you give us that opportunity and, you know, you're patient with us because of the situation that we're in, we'll do the best we can to meet everyone and to understand what their concerns are, and for them to understand what we're really doing and not doing. And maybe we'll come to a consensus. We understand that. I don't know if you know, if we're going to get a vote tonight, and I'd hate to lose the opportunity to be part of this community. So no, I don't know if you have some thoughts on that, but you know, maybe we should ask for the item to be tabled as long as the mayor and the commission would agree, because I think, again, the world will be different 2 weeks from today, and then we can, at that point, create a game plan. And I'm hoping then that the community will be responsive. If they don't respond, they don't respond. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't force them. But I want you to know, Madam Mayor, and I want your commission to know that we will turn every stone that we have to, and we will, you know, do anything and everything that we can to, in effect, address every single person that signed the petition, and at least understand where they're coming from, and maybe we can reach consensus.
The vice mayor has her hand up.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say something and then I'm gonna make a motion, and this is to you, Manny. So I really appreciate that you're willing to go out and do 85 meetings in 85 hours, and I hope that you are successful in doing so, and making those contacts with the residents, because I think you can see that that's essential to getting us to say that this is a project that would work, your community buy-in. But I would also point out that, you know, we keep saying this is a different world, and it really is, and it's going to look different again in 2 weeks. But I think attitudes towards density may be changing. You know, people who have been caged in their little house or their little apartment or their little townhouse for the last 6 weeks, streets, little tiny streets without sidewalks, are looking a whole lot more threatening than they looked 2 months ago. So I hear you loud and clear about what a business model is. And, you know, I understand you can't go out there and build 12 single family homes. But I think there needs to be, just like we always say, you know, the residents, oh, you need to manage your expectations a little bit. I think the developers there's going to be a shift. There's going to have to be a little bit of a shift that might take place in understanding that the way we look at those little streets, those little sidewalkless streets, is a lot different than how we looked at it before. So please take that into consideration when you're moving forward with this project, and when you're moving forward to speaking with these residents, which I hope you are successful in. With that, I'm going to ask, can we make a motion to continue this for 2 weeks and see if Manny and his team is able to make any headway? That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Harris has his hand up.
Oh, more discussion.
You're muted. Commissioner, you're muted. There you are.
Still?
Better.
I'll second that motion.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart,
No.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
I'm going to vote no because I'm ready to vote on the actual item tonight. So no.
Vice Mayor Odman,
Can't hear you. You're on mute. You're muted.
Me?
There we go.
The vice mayor.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I said I'm going.
Thank you. Mayor Llewellyn.
No.
Motion fails 2-3.
Was there another motion that wanted to be raised, that we wanted to raise?
Commissioner James had a motion.
Yeah, that's,
I didn't have a motion. I just said I wanted to vote on the item tonight, but if that failed, then it doesn't look like the item is gonna pass.
well, to continue it failed. So if you wanted to vote on the actual item, you can vote on the actual item. You can make a motion to do that.
So are we voting on that now?
We just made a motion.
Oh, motion to what?
I guess is the motion
To vote on it.
right? But no, I thought Commissioner James was making the motion. Was I seconding the motion?
I don't know what the motion
I
is.
didn't make a motion.
Okay, well, since you guys aren't continuing it, motion to deny the item?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Okay, this is on a motion to deny ordinance 2020-008. Made by Commissioner James, seconded by Commissioner Brandimart.
No, it was made by the vice mayor.
I'm sorry.
Made by the mayor.
Wait, didn't I make the motion? Okay.
Yes.
The vice mayor, the motion, it was seconded by Commissioner Brandimart.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Odman who made the motion to deny? I'm sorry.
I made the motion to deny.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brandemarty seconded the motion.
All righty, gotcha. Here we go. Commissioner Brandimart,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman,
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-3. 5-0. I'm sorry. It's late.
It's getting late, yes.
I know.
Okay,
Okay, moving to the next item.
next item.
9-2, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the site plan modification SP 00315 MOD2 and design variation OT 01620 submitted by 4 North Federal Dania LLC for the property located on the northeast corner of Federal Highway and Dania Beach Boulevard in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached to this resolution, providing for conditions, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, continued from the April 20th, 2020 meeting, community development. Again, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. Anybody from the commission who's been contacted, either for or against, should please disclose that at this point. No disclosures? Okay. For staff, be sworn in. You were already sworn in for all the hearings, correct? So you're good. Then if Mr. Motwani, Mr. Reed.
End of the meeting.
I know that there's a few representatives from the developer that I see online.
Okay. So let's ask for Mr. Motwani to see if he's there. Mr. Motwani, you present?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And Mr. Reed, are you present?
Yes, I'm here.
And anybody else from Tryon?
Laker is our representative. He's on.
Okay.
And we're just here to answer questions, since we try to keep this short. So
That's fine. I still need to swear you in. You swear or affirm the testimony you'll give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Each one, please respond separately. First,
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Mr. Reed?
I do.
And Mr. Kerr. Thank you very much. Okay, we can proceed, Corinne, with the presentation.
Thank you. Okay, let me try this time to screen. Let's see. Can you see my presentation?
No.
No. Yes?
Corinne, please share the program, not your screen.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't get up till.
Nothing's coming up.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I had to switch with the. Sorry.
It shows it. There you go. Well, let's see.
Okay, let's see. Do we see my screen now?
No. It's got your name and a back to meeting thing.
Don't know what I'm doing wrong. It's all going so smoothly. I apologize. If Monica is there and she can get me up, that would be great. But this project is at the corner, the northeast corner of Dania Beach Boulevard and Federal Highway. It's known as the Tryon site. It is the city center zoning district, and it has the CRA. It's located in the CRA. It's about 3.4 gross acres. It's currently all vacant. The applicant has had previous approvals on this site plan, and there's currently a valid site plan on the project today. What they're asking for is to modify that site plan by increasing the residential dwelling units. I believe it was, I want to say the previous site plan was for 400 dwelling units and 13,000 square feet of retail. What they're asking for tonight is 340 dwelling units, and they're holding on the 13,000 square feet of retail. So there's been a little bit of redesign to the building. For example, there was a pool amenity that was located on the ground floor. They're relocating that to above the parking garage, and they're doing a little bit of a redesign. They're also providing a little bit more of a step back from the building on East Dania Beach Boulevard, which is necessitating the design variation because in this district we have a build to requirement that requires the building placement to be very close to the street frontage. By pushing it back a little bit as proposed, the applicant's able to provide additional movement in the building as well as landscaping to help soften some of the building frontage on the street. Going through the site plan, it did go through the development review committee. There's a couple things I want to identify. The land development code does require payment for the public parking. For public parks at a rate of $1,364 per dwelling unit. So in this case, the developer will have to pay $375,000 to the park impact fees prior to the issuance of the building permit. The project was reviewed by the Development Review Committee on January 30th, and there were some outstanding conditions which the applicant is aware of and would be made conditions of the approval in the resolution. And they are also proposing to have graphics on the construction fence. When they do erect that construction fence, they want to utilize the city logo, which does require the city commission approval. So they're asking for that approval at the same time. The city commission's, staff's recommendation at this time is approval of the resolution of the site plan modification, design variations for the building setback, and the use of the logo, with the remaining DRC comments made conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation at this time. I'm sorry, I'm not able to get this up for some reason. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
hands up. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
This is Lake Kerr. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see how to raise my hand, so I'm here on behalf of the applicant. My office is at 808 East Los Olas Boulevard. I'm a planning consultant. Corinne has outlined completely what our proposal is. It'll be a total of 340 dwelling units. They did reconfigure inside the building. We reduced some efficiencies, added some 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, rearranged the amenity deck as Corinne has outlined. And then we're asking for additional relief on the setback, primarily on East Dania Beach Boulevard. And there will be additional area for additional sidewalk and landscape in that area. We are maintaining the same amount of commercial space, and we're just hoping for your approval tonight, and they are ready to start development too.
Yay.
You want a motion, Mayor? If there's no other questions.
Sure. Does anybody want to?
Motion to approve the item?
I'll second it.
Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brandemart,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman,
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is discussion and possible action, local government preparation by Vice Mayor Odman. And I think
up on me.
I think yours is going to tie into mine, which is the second one, the update on reopening.
I'm sorry, repeat what you just said, Mayor?
I said I suspect that your presentation is going to roll into the one that I.
Yeah. This is really sort of a part of a broader discussion. I'm sure most of us were listening to or got the Cliff Notes version of the county workshop that happened today, and the mayor I'm sure will give a nice little overview of it. But the part I wanted to talk about was a couple of things. You have some people saying that the second part of COVID is going to come in the fall. There's some other experts who say it's going to come in these sort of wavelets, where these areas of outbreak become so big and they happen at different parts of the country. So I guess that kind of brings us back to where we've been for much of this pandemic. We really don't know. We know it's coming back, but we just don't know exactly how that's going to happen. So given that, when this first came up on us, we never could have guessed how much things were going to change, how this was going to affect so many different parts of local municipal government. We bought some PPEs, and we kind of there was no playbook. We just had to figure it out. And the degree to which we got county and state guidance, was maybe not always what we expected it to be. So, is there anything, I guess the conversation is is there anything that we want to be doing or need to be doing to prepare? One of the questions I asked, and I think Frank, you might have the answer to it. I saw that you had replied. We have the hurricane fund. Is that something that also covers us, that we can use that money if we need to for when that second wave comes? That question was for Frank, if I didn't make that clear.
Yes, Vice Mayor. That is something that can be used for disaster recovery. The fund itself is labeled as disaster recovery, and it's definitely within the purview of the City Commission to use that funds for something like this, which was actually a disaster declaration by the mayor.
Financially, from your standpoint, is there anything that we should be doing now, or that we should be doing in between where we are now and where we will be whenever that second wave comes?
Well, the best thing that we can do is continue to monitor the impact of the crisis on the city's revenues and the city's cash flows.
And the longer this continues to occur in this social distancing mitigation situation that we're in, the more money the city is going to spend on these mitigation measures and so on. So the longer it goes on, the more money we'll spend on this, and the longer it goes on, the more potential impact we have on our revenues. So we don't currently know exactly what the impact is going to be on our revenues. This month of May, we will start seeing, when we start getting some of our state sharing revenues, we will start seeing the impact, because these revenues lag by about a month or so. So once the closures took effect towards the end of March, then we'll start to see that now in the revenues. Within the next 2 to 3 months, we'll know for sure how deep the impact is going to be, and we can plan accordingly. But for now, I think the best thing to do is be conservative with our financials right now, and just wait until we have more information on what the impact is going to be.
Okay. And maybe this question is going to be more for City Manager Garcia. So something that we heard over and over again in today's workshop was about, monitoring, and they talked about different ways of monitoring through tracing and tracers, and monitoring how effective, these policies are, and also was enforcement. So this is a two-part question. One, how are we monitoring this? Like, I know we would usually count on the health department to be monitoring, like at what rate did Dania Beach, did we have our increases in infections? But is it just them monitoring it? Or is there any city, on the city end, are we doing any of that?
So,
then I'm going to get to the second part of my question.
So I'm going to answer the first part based on enforcement. We took a very proactive enforcement approach. So not only were we using our code enforcement team, we augmented that team by taking the entire parking team and creating one large team. We became a 7-day operation for enforcement, working 12-hour days and ensuring that our city was monitoring those numbers and going to the different establishments to ensure that they were following the orders of the governor, the orders of the mayor, social distancing. So when you look at our neighboring cities to the south and to the north, we stayed in the mid-20s the entire time. With that said, we've had our professional organization and our HR director working very closely with our labor attorney to put together one of the documents that's in front of you, which is the Return to Safe Workplace Procedure. Because the key thing here, as we take the steps going in the next phase, is to make sure that the people feel safe. So by the people, I mean the staff, as we begin to return to work or phase in the return to work, and also the external customers and our residents as they come to our facilities. But basically is the preparation, having all the PPEs, the education for our employees, ensuring that our parks and all our city facilities, including City Hall, are adhered to in regards to all the orders. So we started this in day one back in the first week of March. And I think we need to continue to do this, be prepared, knowing what our finance director said, that we have that 8.4 million for disaster. And we can always allocate $150,000, $200,000 that's there for PPEs, for testing, and or any other proactive measures.
All right, so I suppose that answers, I see where the method of which we're doing monitoring. I guess that's more policy monitoring versus infection monitoring. But in terms of enforcement, something that was bounced around today by Mark Bogan was the idea of using 311, or no, it was having a compliance hotline so that, as we do this opening, inevitably there's going to be some people that don't follow the rules. So a hotline so that people could just call, and it was streamlined, right? It just went, they called, they said, so-and-so at this place, they're not wearing masks there. And then immediately it was routed to that city's code department was notified and they went out there. Then Miss Henry, she offered the idea that they didn't need a separate hotline. They had 311 and that it could be routed that way. I called 311 from where I live. I live on the west side. I don't have 311. 311 does not, it doesn't work where I live. And I think also where the mayor lives as well. So 311, number one, isn't a viable option for Broward, I would say. But that's for them to figure out. Two, I don't know that we necessarily want to wait for them. Do we want to have, moving forward, a dedicated line for people to report and say, you know, because we don't want people getting in their face, right? That these people aren't wearing masks and yelling at this business. You know, why aren't you guys, why don't you care? You know, we don't want that. We want people just to be able to call, you know, 1-800-666-2121, whatever it is, and then just for code to be able to go out there and be dispatched immediately. So I think that is something to think about when we're looking at the enforcement response of this. I think that could be very, very important. I think a lot of this, it would be better served if we had the mayor give the little rundown, the update, so we're all on the same page as to what's going on with the reopening, and then I'll probably jump back in with some more of my thoughts and ideas, and I'd like to hear the thoughts and ideas of the other commissioners as well.
Okay. So the second item that we had was I added late, and I apologize, but nothing to really vote on, just to kind of update people about what's going on. From the commission meeting, the workshop today, the county commission workshop, you got a sense of what was discussed on our call on Monday with all the mayors, and including Mayor Holness and Administrator Bertha Henry. And there, it does appear that the recommendation is going to be to start a modified phase 1 reopening as of Monday, the 18th. Modified meaning that we're not really at phase 1 yet, so it wouldn't be a complete reopening of that's allowed under phase 1, since we haven't actually met it at this point. It would basically include opening up businesses, retail, restaurants, that sort of thing. The way that the governor has structured it in the past for other counties has been at 25% capacity. However, there seems to be a push to increase that to 50% capacity. My understanding is, from speaking with some other mayors, that there have been discussions already with the governor privately, and the governor is favorable towards a 50% capacity allowance. That would mean that if the county opens it up to 50%, we could either go with the 50% or reduce it to 25% and go from there. And the 25% for restaurants would be, my understanding, is 25% inside only, not necessarily outside. Outside would be more broad. More people can sit outside. And I know we were already talking about some ideas as far as like what they were talking about, what Bob Swindell talked about earlier about how they were trying to shut down Las Olas and put tables out on the streets to give more room. That's something else that I actually had talked to our city manager about, I don't know, a week or so ago, adding some additional tables for restaurants that either don't do outside dining already, or that do some, but it's limited based on their location and the permits and whatnot. And, you know, it might be something where we could ease up on some of those restrictions. And like in Dania Point, for example, maybe close down one of those roads and allow tables to go out there, like we were talking about earlier. You know, there's plenty of parking over there. It's not really the issue. Same thing could probably be done with, you know, some of these drop-offs for the businesses, the retail businesses. You might be able to do something with some of them where they can actually maybe have a little more space outside. There's a lot of things that we can do. We have a lot of options. So basically they're sending a letter to the governor, if not today, then by tomorrow, and going to basically request I believe, 50%, and opening on Monday. We have to get permission from the governor, because as of right now, Broward County is not allowed to reopen yet in any form other than what we've done so far. So, so that's kind of where we're at. I did have there was some discussion about the beach. The beach is not going to be part of this change right now. And I had some additional conversations since the commission workshop. It looks like Miami-Dade is going to open their beaches probably the Tuesday right after Memorial Day. The concern would be that we would want to be, since we are one region, opening up beaches all at the same time so that we don't have what happened in Naples over the weekend, which essentially was Broward County and Dade County all going over to Naples when they opened up, and then next thing you know, they're shutting everything down again.
Right.
If we were to open up in advance of Miami-Dade, I am certain we would be overrun with people from Miami-Dade. And we also have the issue of Memorial Day weekend, which tends to be a busier weekend for beaches anyway, which is also a concern. So, and this seems to be it's not just me, but this is a concern throughout the county, in Miami-Dade as well. So the thought process is that more likely than not, it looks like they're looking towards not June, but right after Memorial Day to potentially open beaches. There is a plan that's out there that's been submitted by some of the coastal mayors in Broward County, that the suggestion was to open slowly the beaches so that we could police it a little more and make sure we're enforcing things appropriately. That plan basically is that to start off, we would not allow passive use of the beaches, meaning chairs, umbrellas, sitting on the beach. Instead, what would be allowed would be active use, meaning running, walking, jogging, swimming, surfing, that sort of thing. People would simply not be allowed to bring chairs or umbrellas to the beach. So that is something that I think most of the coastal mayors are good with. We're having another meeting tomorrow, another conference call tomorrow with all mayors in the county, as well as with Mayor Holness and Bertha Henry again, to discuss this a little further, and also to follow up on the commission meeting workshop today, as far as what's been prepared. Usually when we have these sort of meetings and there's already been a meeting to discuss things, we usually get a draft of an order right before the meeting so we can take a look at it and kind of give our thoughts on it. So I will tell you that what my thoughts on this are simply that there is still a concern about tracing. There is a concern about finding out where this is going. There is definitely still a concern about health and safety. The tracers that were discussed today at the commission workshop, I think it was Dean Furr said that it's supposed to be 600, and Bertha Henry said, well, it's not 600. I was on a call earlier in the day with that they have for the entire state. So we're definitely low in the numbers for tracers. So that's an issue. Again, I mean, we can discuss it and talk about what our thoughts are as far as the 25% or the 50%. Keep in mind though that, I mean, I've had a number of conversations with business owners the last week in preparation for this. And depending on the type of business, depending upon the size of the business, there's a variety of answers. I have had some restaurants tell me 25%, I'll take it. I'm good. I have a good takeout business. I can take the 25% and I can still run with it. I've had some that have said, I can't open my doors when it's 25%. I'm going to spend more money than I'm going to make. So, I mean, there's good and bad to all of it. The key, though, is going to have to be the social distancing. We're going to have to still make sure that people are keeping their distance, that they are still not sitting close to each other, that they are not standing close to each other. That's going to be not only on the businesses, but it's also going to be on us. And I think we're going to need to really make sure that the enforcement is being done. They are also talking about opening small businesses who don't have a lot of interaction with the public. It would also include personal services such as hair salons and nail salons and that sort of thing as well. They would be by appointment only so that they could limit the capacity. Drive-ins, that was one thing that we talked about earlier. Drive-ins will likely be allowed. Recreational activities at condos was also something that was brought up, and likely that is going to be allowed and have the homeowners association police it more than us. And museums up to 25% capacity as well was one of the items. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over and I'll start calling on people here. Commissioner Harris.
Now, what I had my hand up for earlier was the designated phone line. I think Frank can speak to that we have the ability with our phone system, Ring Central, to just program a phone number in and make it our own citywide hotline, much like the Code Red. So that was my comment a while ago.
I think we're going to have to, because we're not going to be able to, we only have so many employees that can go out and enforce these laws. So we're going to need to rely on the public as well.
That's right. That's all.
Vice Mayor? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you very much. So in these things, as you'll recall from today's meeting, something that was so key was, they talked about over and over again, there needs to be some educational component. Monitoring is important, evaluation is important, and then the next one, education. There needs to be a PR push, and Broward's going to do their own PR push, but so do we. And more than just these social media posts, we need to put a little bit of money into them. Do some targeted ads to Dania Beach. Things are opening up, but they're not back to normal. Hopefully we have somebody we pay to make these campaigns and make them good, but we need to effectively translate that message. Just because things are opening back up, this isn't over, and it's not back to normal. And social distancing over and over and over again, because otherwise we don't want to for a second let that leave people's minds that when they go back out, that this needs to not be at the forefront. I think the compliance hotline, I'm glad that everyone agrees that could be important, not a customer service line. I think it's very important that we had that, but a dedicated compliance line. And then, for the 25 to the 50%, I understand the concerns of why it's scary to go to 50, but the conversations I had, they were some for, some saying the 25, but if I had to tally up the score, more said the 50%. More said the 50%. So, that's why I say, oh my God, don't for a second think that we can't not be monitoring this constantly. We can't be educating constantly, because there's no way we can move forward with that 50% if those other two components aren't there. So that's my recommendation, is moving forward with the 50%, understanding that those things have to be in place.
Yes. Is that 50% for inside of the restaurant?
Yes.
Yes. So I actually spoke to the Shenanigans owner today before these meetings started, and it's not just it's not just about our restaurants. It's about, like you said, all of the businesses. And we have a lot of Americans that are out of employment right now. The unemployment rate is skyrocketing. And if we don't do something to save some of the businesses, we are going to face way more problems than we're facing, because all of these things have a trickle-down effect. And so, I've seen, we all are seeing this. If you're scared, stay home. I won't be going out to eat at any of the restaurants per se, inside of the restaurant. So that's my prerogative. But if we don't help these local businesses, we are going to find ourselves in a world of trouble. And so I have heard, maybe a slight few that is, they're able to say, okay, give me 10%. I'd rather have something that's better than nothing. But in essence, it really isn't helping them in the grand scheme of things. We heard our chamber say that, you know, they are telling her, who's in contact with these businesses every day, that they need 50%. I don't know how we would be able to enforce all of these things with a hotline, because look at the amount of restaurants we have, and then look at the amount of other businesses that we have. We just don't have the amount of staff to be able to, you know, control a hotline. I do think that there does need to have an educational component. I was okay with 25% before, but when you really talk to the people who are having to pay these employees, having to pay their rent, having to purchase the food, having to, you know, have all of their expenditures, and they are, you know, expending more than they are making in revenue. If we're going to do it, I don't think that we can continue to say we're going to wait to see what Hollywood does, or we're going to wait to see what Fort Lauderdale does. I think that, you know, we are a city that we have to be bold and make certain decisions, and they may not be popular all the time. You're never going to satisfy everyone. But if this is something that, you know, unfortunately, because of COVID, and I'll say again, we are facing possible financial problems that we're going to have to look at come budget time. So we are unable to offer certain programs that other cities are offering. We're not able to offer those programs from our city, our CRA, or our, you know, or our chamber. All we can do is give them those communications. So if we can't offer them a dollar amount, we need to give them the resources so they can make those monies. Even if you say 50%, I don't know if 50% of people are going to show up. Even if you say everything's back to normal, they're still going to trickle down. So if you say 25%, maybe 5% will show up. And we're going, you know, and if you're rolling this out on a Monday and it's not a weekend, it's already hurting the businesses anyway. It's going to be a slow moving forward process, because there are so many other factors that we have to put into consideration, like different ways that everyone has to operate. Maybe requiring that they have paper menus. I don't know if that's something that we can require. I'm sure it's something we can require. We already require paper straws. So if there are things that we can require in order so that we can say we are, although we are doing it at 50%, we are being conscious and understanding what certain things, and this is what we are going to require with those things. But my vote is for the 50% on the inside. And on the outside, what are you guys doing? As long as they're social distancing, you aren't limiting?
The key is social distancing. Yeah, that's what the situation is. So it's not like there's necessarily a limit on the outside, as long as they're far enough apart from each other. And that is the key, I think, even inside, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so, you know, beforehand, I was the, okay, 25%, let's be a little more conservative. But in speaking to these restaurant owners who are thinking of filing bankruptcy, who are going through a large state of depression because they're spending their savings trying to keep, you know, employees. I spoke to Joe from Joe's Grill. He wants to shut it down, but he doesn't have the heart to shut his restaurant down because he's helping pay for someone else's rent through their, you know, through their earnings. And so we have to really look at those things. We're going to have a higher crime rate if we have more people that are homeless, that can't find a job, that are desperate for their families, you know, and then you have people who can't afford the health care. So even if they do contract something, they can't afford to go to the doctor. And so it's a great, it's a lot of consequences that come with our decisions. And so my decision is the 50% on the inside, and then whatever else, however it's being enforced.
Social distance.
City manager?
Yes, I feel confident. I feel confident in our enforcement team, but I want to remind you that this whole enforcement has been a group effort, and it includes every single one of you as elected officials. Because whether it was Saturday or Sunday afternoon, you would call me or you would call Candido, and all of a sudden, you know, we would be at a restaurant or we would be at an establishment, and we would talk to the management, and they would correct and they would adjust. So I feel confident that at 50%, but like Commissioner James said, we could open on the inside at 50% and only 25% could come. But I really feel confident in the work of all of us. That dedicated line is something that I want to work with Frank to be able to make happen. That $5,000 that we have budgeted for the chamber, I want to give it to the chamber with your support, but I want it to be for communication and getting the word out. And I want to set aside from that 8.4 million, maybe $50,000 just for communications alone. I was having that conversation earlier today with Frank, that communications, that education, hey, Dania Beach is open, and getting the word out. I really think it's a really good investment, and we'll get that return for the investment. When it comes to the beach, I spoke to Miami Beach, I spoke to Hollywood, and I spoke to Fort Lauderdale, those 3 city managers. Miami Beach definitely is not going to open until after Memorial Day, possibly even the first week of June. Hollywood was at just and in that this Monday, the 18th, we should move towards opening our tennis courts and our racquetball courts. And I've met with Candido and our parks director to ensure that we have the staffing trained and ready to go as well for that.
What about our football field and our baseball field?
Yeah, we would open up, Commissioner, our ball fields, football fields and ball fields, but not for organized, but for recreation. For example, a couple of kids can go and toss the football, dad can go and hit some grounders, but we're not going to have a full baseball team or a full football team just yet, because we've had some challenges in some parks just with this first small phase. So the key is education, education, education. But I'm sure at some point we'll be able to get there. And that's going to be our commitment, making sure that the staff is ready to educate. But all fields and all courts will be open, but they would have some restrictions.
Commissioner Brandimari?
Yes, I read the papers that you put out here on how you're going to do the parks, and I think that's perfect. I really do. And I like the idea that you'll have someone out there designated to watch everything, because the whole thing about this is groups. This is all about groups together. It isn't going to work that way, not yet. Now, what I want to understand is this. 50% a restaurant on the inside. The restaurant has a bar. And as my understanding was, bars are not open. Why? The stools are on top of each other. You can't have social distancing at a bar. So I want to understand, are they going, that's the first one. Then I got one more. At a bar, Mayor, would they be able to serve at a bar?
No, the bars are supposed to still remain closed. I think the city attorney has his hand up too, so he may have more information on that.
Okay, because otherwise they're going to have to, like, say, if they got 30 stools, they're going to have to take out so many and leave so many. Outside seating. Now that's interesting, because let's take a restaurant and they have the outside. Take Shenanigans. Shenanigans that's a big bar in there. I want to see it. There's less tables than there is bar, but he has a wonderful outside, and he does even behind the outside, more like towards the parking lot where he puts up a tent. How many would he be able to put there? Will it be based on social distancing of how many feet? Is it 6 feet?
It's 6 feet, but I think it would, and I'd leave this to the city attorney to talk about this, but I think it would have to be based upon individual requests, and what we're willing to loosen as far as the normal requirements for things like that. So I don't think anybody here has a problem with allowing a little leeway when it comes to putting more tables and chairs out and that sort of thing outside, as long as they're distant. It's the same thing. It's all about.
Yeah, what you said, it's social distancing, right?
Right.
And if that's violated and they call that designated hotline, they can remain anonymous?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Okay. That there's good. I love the 50% inside, so long as you solve the problem on the bar. Because if I go to a restaurant and I see the stools are close together, I'll be the first one on the hotline.
Bars won't be open.
I want to be able to sit there and do my thing, and so would you, without having somebody sitting right on top of me. That doesn't go there. All right, so I love the 50%, and I think they'll all be so happy with that. But the 50% does not include the outside. The outside can be whatever they can accommodate, so long as there is a distance between them.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds great.
Let me go to the city attorney because he's had his hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to tell you all what the current county executive order allows.
Okay.
So for Mr. Brandemarty, for example,
Okay.
bars that you're talking about, not bars, alcohol bars, but the bars where there's stools, they could not be used at all.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is current now. This is current. It can change.
And that'll stay a long time. We were told that.
Right now, they are prohibited from being served anything there at a bar where people have meals.
So it's no bar, period.
Unless we see something different tomorrow. I don't anticipate. I think we'll see.
No, I don't either.
More importantly, the 50% only comes if the governor says to the counties, you can do 50%. If they say 25%, we can't go to 50%.
Correct.
We can be more strict, but we cannot be more liberal than what the governor gives to the county, which in turn gives to us.
Do you have any idea how they lean?
Today we listened to it, a number of us listened to it. It seemed like of the 9 commissioners, I'd say about 6 of them were pretty open to the 50%, my recollection.
Okay.
And I would tell you that I don't mean to interrupt you, Tom, but I've spoken to several people today who have had conversations with the governor either yesterday or this morning. And my understanding is the governor is willing to go to 50%. But we'll see what happens with the letter.
Very good, Mayor.
That's the only way we could go to that number. And again, as Mr. Brandemarty pointed out, most of you know, yes, that's only for the inside. Outside is not limited. Currently, it says you can seat parties of 10, no more than 10 people. They must be 6 feet away. 10 people or less as parties outside, as long as they're 6 feet away from another seated party. That could change tomorrow, but I got the impression from Bertha Henry that they're going to keep a lot of what is currently on the executive order.
So the 10 people parties are both in and out or just one?
No, outside only.
Outside only. That's okay. That's good.
But again, I want you to understand, that's tonight. Tomorrow. That's the problem. That's the way this has been always in flux. And we deal with it. As soon as we get it, we work with the mayor and the manager and we react and issue an order that is as strict as we possibly can for safety.
So Mayor, we're not really doing any of this right away.
You can't do anything until we know what they're doing on Monday.
Monday, okay.
Well, we should know something by tomorrow, I think, because as to whether or not this is going to go forward on Monday. And I think it's going to go forward on Monday.
Well, that's good.
So it's just a matter of we have this conference call tomorrow. We also I know that Bertha Henry said that she was working, her team putting together a letter to go to the governor. So I'm sure that is going to be done. If it's not already done, it'll be done right tomorrow. So I'm hoping the governor is waiting for it. He's aware. So lots of people have been in touch with him about this. He's received letters. He's received phone calls. So, I anticipate that when he receives it, it will be addressed pretty quickly. So, because also there's a time limit here. If we're going to do this on Monday, we need to have an answer sooner rather than later.
Sure, and they need to move their tables around, right, Mayor? They have to move them outside maybe because 50% inside, if their inside restaurant's too small and they have a bigger outside like Paulo, he can move his tables.
Keep something in mind, okay?
Yeah.
Not every store, not every restaurant, not every business is going to do this, even if we say go. They're not all necessarily going to open. I have heard from several that I called who said, look, if you tell me it's going to happen on the 18th, I don't know if I'm going to be ready or not. I might wait another week. So
Right.
heard that. Plus, we also know, I'm sure you all heard the same things that I have, that there are a lot of people in town. Commissioner James just said she's not going out to the restaurants. There are a lot of people in town who are not going out right away. They're going to wait. And they're going to wait a week or two or whatever and see what happens. Comfortable. So, you know, even if we were to do this at 50%, it may not be full to 50%. So it's just a matter of at least having the option as long as the social distancing is in place. And that's key. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Vice Mayor. You're muted.
Mute.
I didn't mute you.
It always, I think, whatever, because I always mute myself maybe. So my final question was this. So on the summer, you know, I know we're used to taking our summer breaks. Given what's, and you know, I wanted to talk about everything moving forward. So this is a thought of moving forward. Do we want to, given that there's likely going to be an intersection between the second wave and hurricane season, do we still feel like it's a prudent decision to take off, what do we take off, like 6 weeks?
We only do one meeting per month over the summer.
Right, okay, so elected leaders, is it really the time to be scaling back on meetings during that? I mean, if it was just the pandemic, I would be saying, I don't think we should do that. But the two things intersecting, there could be so much going on. I just really can't imagine that we're going to move to one meeting a month during that time. I mean, what are leaders if you're not leading during one of the darkest times in American history for the city? It seems like a something that's definitely worth reconsidering. Is that something? I see Bill waving, because I think yeah, no, I understand. Maybe there's someone beforehand. But so that's my question to you. During this time, given everything that is going on, do you feel that now that is the best time for us to be going on vacation and not having meetings?
Commissioner James.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'll start with that one since it's fresh in my head. Thinking about that, listen, I've been asking for a workshop for months and it didn't happen. And so I understand now that although we are in a pandemic, we aren't attending all these extra meetings. We aren't having emergency meetings. We haven't had any emergency meetings. We've had meetings exactly how they are. One of the people who have been more hands-on with all of the emergency orders has been the mayor. So I don't know if it changes our responsibility at all, you know, to have these additional meetings, because at the end of the day, you're not at the table when they're making those decisions, you know, at the round table when, you know, they're signing those executive orders. I'm not sure what we could add to, you know, having to have a virtual meeting. I mean, if they're virtual meetings, of course, I guess we can do it from wherever we are. But the point that I'm making is that we haven't, up until now, which is we've experienced a lot of unprecedented times, we haven't had all of these emergency meetings for me to say, okay, guess what? Maybe we shouldn't meet in June or this and this and that. Like, what has been any different for me now than has been before? It hasn't been anything differently for me now than it was before. I'm going to the same amount of meetings. I mean, I call in and listen to a staff meeting, but I've asked to be a part or to listen to, like, to be a part of the task force. That never happened. I know that the task force meets, but I haven't heard that there have been task force meetings, and I definitely haven't been invited to those. So maybe you all can continue to go to extra meetings, but we haven't had all these extra meetings. We haven't had all these extra workshops in order to say, okay, we definitely need to make sure we're here and buckle down. I just don't know what our level of inclusiveness would be, you know, to add to that. I mean, we get the order, we follow the order. We tell our residents to order. at this point, that's how it's been operating. And my other comment was going back, and I can't even think about it. My other comment was going back to something that, you know, the city manager stated about, you know, the chamber again, and saying that, you know, she wants to give them the funding, but I don't want to give funding with restrictions. I don't want to give funding and say, these are the stipulations, because we gave funding to the library that was supposed to help with this, but the library is closed. And I don't have a problem with, you know, having that funding be allocated to the library, because the library is an important asset to the city, just as the chamber is. And all the chambers are struggling at this moment. And I'm not sure if that those funds could come out of these emergency funds. It's just $5,000 extra dollars that will come out. It's not like it's, you know, we sit here and we just spent $30,000 on to pick up extra trash for a month, which is fine because that's what our city needs. But our city also needs those very important resources that our chamber gives. And so that's my perspective on those situations.
Commissioner Brandemore.
Listen, as soon as we voted to keep the vacation, if that's what you want to call it, the way that we had it, I made plans. You may have the luxury of having your family with you. Probably do. I don't. And I will drive. I won't fly because I'm afraid of the plane, and I'm going home. And that's the way I feel. And I think it's a cruel suggestion. At the peak, we had no meetings. Now that we're on the down low and we're reopening the city, now you want to make a suggestion like that. And as far as that task force goes, I never was invited to any of those meetings either. But I want to go home. I want to see my children. It may be the last time I see them again.
Commissioner Harris.
We did have plans for the summer break, but all of our plans have been canceled. So I will be available anytime for an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting from wherever anybody is. We can always hook one up together. The technology seems to be working okay, and we can always pull off a meeting in person or from anywhere in the world. So I think the Vice Mayor's suggestion is well noted.
And just my 2 cents. I have no plans to go anywhere at this point in time, so I'm available. We don't know if we're going to be in the same situation where we're still doing virtual meetings or not. I would hope by then we are not, but you never know. So, you know, if we could do virtual meetings, even if people are away, we could probably do it that way. But anyway, Vice Mayor, stop muting yourself. Right.
I know. I'm sorry. Anyways, look, it's not intended to be a punishment, and it's intended to leadership. This is the time when you're needed the most. What this city is going through is unprecedented. At the last meeting, I hear what you're saying, Commissioner James. Yes, it is primarily up to the mayor and the city manager to work on these things. But at the last meeting, we did make decisions. We made decisions that differed from the Broward ordinance, just like at this meeting. And I would anticipate at the next meeting that we're going to do the same thing. Maybe we're going to make some other recommendations because we're going to be starting to talk about phase 2. Maybe, who knows? So I think these upcoming meetings are very important. You know, I wouldn't bring this up if this was just hurricane season, but this is a different animal that we're in. We're playing an entirely different game. So I'm certainly sympathetic to, you know, not wanting to come to a meeting or anything like that, but certainly that's not the ask, Commissioner. It's not that you come in, it's perhaps to have a virtual meeting, even if it's an abbreviated meeting, but I don't think it's responsible for us to walk away from the table at this point. Literally, she's walking away from the table. So I guess that's my answer about that. But I really think it's important, and I really would like to try and get consensus on that, about continuing to convene during that time. We're leaders expected to lead, and I think that's what we should be doing. I don't think that this is the time for taking leave. I don't think it's the right thing to do.
Commissioner Hara?
To the Vice Mayor, yes, I agree with you. We were elected to serve, and that means through a pandemic, good times, bad times, nighttime, daytime, anytime, weekends. I call the mayor, I call the city manager, I call the city attorney. People call me all hours of the day and night. I was elected to serve. So I'm telling you all, I will always be available for a meeting, a sit down, a phone call, an email, because that's what I was elected to do. And that's what I will always do. I'm still serving on the League of Cities. I'm still serving on the Broward MPO. I'm doing affordable housing conferences online. So you know what? I'm always here. I'm always available. I'm always available for somebody calling me at 7:30 in the morning about a pile of trash. And Lauren, that wasn't your neighborhood. No. But I'm always available. And for all of you that know me, you know my heart's in the right place. I'll always be available.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Commissioner?
Yes. Well, my situation is different, and I don't care to get into my personal business here with you all. However, I will say this. Although this is a time of leadership and teamwork and all of these other great things that we can sit on this platform and give our speeches, I do think that we've already made a decision. And I do think that if Commissioner Brandimani has already made plans, I do think it's unfortunate for 3 people to vote against that and make her be an absence. What I do think how we can come together and think outside the box is maybe to call special meetings as needed. So if there is something pressing that has to be spoken about or dealt with, maybe we can call a special meeting, because maybe we don't necessarily need that meeting. But I don't want to, we can't go back on something when people have put their finances and time. And if that is where her kids or her family is, in my good conscience, I can't say that our involvement has been that inclusive as a whole to where we need to tell her she can't go visit her family.
No, that's what we were telling her. I
mean, well, in essence, Commissioner, let's be real. Commissioner Brandimani is not a techie person. I'm sorry, Commissioner Brandimani, you're just not. I don't have faith that she could probably have this meeting if she weren't there in City Hall. That's just not what we're dealing with here. So if we're really dealing with each other and we're looking out for each other, we've already made this decision. And then you want to say next month that we have to start. This is next month. This isn't December that we're talking about. We're talking about next month and the month after, or whenever we're talking about it, 2 months from now. I think that what we should do is maybe call a special meeting, and maybe that it's more so like a workshop, so that it's not something that you have a absence or something like that on your record, or something that we can accommodate both parties. I mean, are you opposed to having special meetings requested if need be, and not just have it specifically on the meeting date? Because how do we also go back on the plans that we've already had? For my situation, I may already be traveling on that date, and it's not vacation for me. My travel isn't necessarily vacation for me, but I have made my travel arrangements based upon the schedule that was presented to me. And I serve on the dais, off the dais, all day long, just like anyone else. So my level of service does not mean, because I can't make a meeting, I'm not serving the residents. So I don't want us to speak that language of, oh, I'm always available and I can make it here and I can make it there. But what are you doing when the cameras aren't on? That's what's most important here. We're not showing up because the cameras are here and making these grand speeches. Like, where is really your work? Like, let's look at your resume and see what you really have done for the community during this pandemic, because that's what true leadership is, what we all are doing. You guys are going to the extra mile to visit residents because of certain items that's on the agenda. That's what you're elected to do. You're elected to serve the residents. And I think that if a special meeting needs to be called, I would be more so in support of that than just taking away what we've already voted on.
I'm going to say something before I call on Commissioner Brandemar. My concern is this. My problem with special meetings is this. When we've been going through these issues, it could turn into a special meeting that's needed every other day. We don't have enough time to give notice on those meetings, and we have to give notice according to the law. And that has always been the concern about meetings. And also because of the issue of dealing with setting these meetings up. So we're getting better at the tech. I'm very happy to see that. I understand that the situation about if you've already made plans and if Commissioner Brandemar has to drive to New Jersey and go visit family, I totally understand that. But here's my question. Is there, in order to try to find a happy medium here, could it be maybe 1 month that we have everybody's available to do 2 meetings as opposed to just the 1? Or do you have plans the entire summer because of that?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
August, first of all, before I answer you, I want to talk to Tom. May I, Mayor? Tom, do I really even have to attend these meetings since I am in the vulnerable age group of 83 that I have to fight with these young kids?
If you're not present, and preferably they would excuse you, as long as they have a quorum of 3 people or more, you need not be there.
Right. And not only that, under our new charter, no matter what way it goes, I'm still excused, correct?
Well, that's if you're ill. That's an illness thing, Commissioner. Remember, we changed it because of your hospitalization issue. But
Right. That could happen at any time, right? Here's the point. July, I did it and I made the plans and told the kids I was coming home. August, no, I'm here August, but not July. And Bill, you know that because you and I leave at the same time.
So the mayor's proposing maybe we can get for June.
I know, because you got your family here. I don't.
No,
Okay.
we canceled all of our plans. So our plans were canceled for us, rather. So.
Yeah. So wait, so what I'm proposing is, and Commissioner James, I don't know what your situation is, but is it something where we could just do a regular 2 meetings a month for June and August, as opposed to, and just not do, and only do 1 meeting in July, like we've already planned?
So that way we don't interrupt your plans, Commissioner.
So we don't interrupt your plans, Commissioner Brandemar.
No, I understand what you're saying, Laura. Yeah, because of me, I will be back here in August. And the only reason for that is because hopefully the restaurants will bring my husband back to work. That's the only reason I'm coming back in August, or I would stay there.
I understand that, but given the current scenario, the only time that you already have plans where you're not available is July, correct?
Right, but I could also do a teleconference call and ask for it to be held. Am I right, Tom?
Yes.
Then you'd have to call me up in order for me to attend your meeting.
That's fine. We don't have to have you on the video as long as you're on the telephone. It's fine.
Darn right.
Okay.
So you can do whatever you want. I don't care. The long distance call will be from New Jersey because that's the only place I have family that's alive is in New Jersey.
So Commissioner James, with your situation, would that work for you, or do you have conflicts as well in June and August?
I'm not going to know. I don't have a conflict in June, but I'm not going to know about August until I understand about school situation and what the school board is going to do. So I don't have an answer for you, but if I'm not there, I'm just, there's nothing I can do about it. So.
Conference call.
Okay, so could we?
But if I'm in the airport, I can't have a conference call if I'm in the airport. If I'm traveling.
A month at a time, and say in June we will have 2 meetings.
Well, we always do.
Okay, I wasn't sure which ones. I don't have the schedule.
I believe it's July and August.
It's the first week of July, Mayor, that we have our last meeting.
Okay.
Right? That's the way we've been doing it for more than 11 years.
Sure. I'm tired. So, in any event, we could have Commissioner Brandemar appear by phone, That would,
Yeah, unless I'm in the car.
Is it going to be full-blown meetings, or are we just going to? Are these going to be full-blown meetings, like 4-hour meetings, or is it going to be like a shorter meeting, or are we just going to discuss emergency issues, or this is regular commission meeting?
Vice Mayor, what was your intent? Did you want to just limit it to issues that need to be discussed at that time?
No, my intent was to have a meeting.
Okay. So
I mean, I understand if we have to just do it month by month. Okay. Can we do that instead of saying the whole vacation and then reassess for the second month?
I think that would be reasonable.
I'm available August.
Okay. So
know if she will be. So
all right. So at this time, could we tentatively say we are going to continue to have meetings for August instead of going on vacation for August? Tom Schneider, can you please come in on this and confirm that we're speaking the right dates of when commission is on vacation?
All right.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, through the mayor. Your first meeting in July and your first meeting in August were the 2 meetings you canceled for your summer break.
Can you tell me what those dates are?
Yes, ma'am. July 14 and August 11.
Okay, so my request is then, can we, at this time, my request to the commission, may we please put back on the books our August 11th meeting?
I'm fine with that.
Consensus for that?
I'm fine with that.
I can't answer that. I thought we were going month by month, and now we're talking about August and May. So
well, because
I can't answer that.
Because she's saying she can't do all of July, and June we do already have all of our meetings. So it's not really month to month. There's just 2 months that are up for discussion. 2 meetings really, the July 14th and the August 11th. She says she absolutely can't do July 14th. So
I understand that, but I don't have an answer for you for August. So, but I'm sure you have consensus anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
look,
you're right.
I'm trying, just as we tried to be fair with Commissioner Brandemarty, I want to try and be fair with you. Do you think that, I again, without asking you anything about your situation, do you know when you'll know one way or another?
Whenever the school board knows. I don't know if they're pushing school back. I don't know what they're doing. And so my son has different arrangements in the summertime. So I cannot answer a question that I don't know what the school board is doing.
All right, I get it. All right, so I'm going to bring this back. Because I already know Bill will come at any time. Mayor Llewellyn, I know you're not booking anything at any time for this summer. So, I know what I'm doing. So let me just bring this back because I get what the issue is, because her and I have similar issues with, with the kid figuring out. So please let me bring it back. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have 1 meeting.
We're gonna talk about it next time. We're gonna talk about August next time. So for right now, we're not gonna do the July 14th meeting. We're maybe gonna do the August 11th meeting. We'll see. We'll talk about it next time. Let's wait till the school board says what's going on.
My final words is I am extremely disappointed that you can't live with 1 meeting in each month, yet you could have your task force meetings without us. The most important meetings.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So that, I think, takes care of both of our items under discussion and possible action. Correct, Vice Mayor? Are you finished?
I'm finished. Yeah.
Okay. I'm finished as well. I promise that after I have this meeting tomorrow, I will send an email to be distributed with the information that comes from the meeting tomorrow so that everybody will know what's going on. Let's see. Okay, commission comments. Commissioner Brandemarty.
Yes. Was anything ever discussed about the casinos?
They remain closed because they are like the large venues. As of now, all large venues remain closed, including casinos. For for Miami-Dade and Broward.
Okay.
I anticipate that's going to be the same after the new order.
I would agree.
Oh, okay. Well, I just hope that this here openings, we don't have to end up closing again. That's all. That we all should be praying for.
True.
All right. And I want you to know again, I'm very disappointed in the commission that I'm working with. And I want the homeowners out there to recognize this. And I doubt very much they cared whether we were here for missing 2 meetings. I really do. And they got to see the way the wave is going by this seated commission that we have now. It's not a caring commission at all. So seniors, when you go out there to vote, be very careful.
Okay, Commissioner Harris, your comments tonight?
No, there's so many unknowns right now that we all need to be vigilant and we all need to speak with one voice, like we have been doing through the city manager's office and through the mayor. So, you know, just as long as we're in compliance with the CDC guidelines and the best practices of our city, then, you know, educate, mitigate, and enforce everything that we can do with to the best of our ability for people of all ages, from the kids to the seniors, and try to take care of everybody the best we can. That's it.
Commissioner James?
Yes. I don't have any comments.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
And I had lots of comments, but it's late and they're not that important. So it's all good. I just want everybody to be safe, and I want everybody to also remember that when things do open up, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all safe. It doesn't necessarily mean that it definitely doesn't mean the virus went away. So we just have to remember that even if things are open, you still have to be vigilant and you still have to keep your distance, wear a mask or a facial covering of some kind, and just try to keep your distance away so we don't increase our numbers again. Last thing we want to do is lose people. Appointments. Does anybody have any appointments for any of these items? If you do, raise your hand. Commissioner Harris, what do you have?
I gave Tom the information from someone who requested to be appointed to the Complete Count Committee, and I emailed it to him today. Tom Schneider, come in, Tom Schneider.
My screen is gone.
We see you.
Yes, I'm here.
We see you.
Okay, so we're good with.
Yes, Commissioner Harris, that was actually an appointment you made at the last meeting, and
right.
So yes, I've got the information, and we have prepared a packet for your appointment.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Don't have to do anything. It was already done.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll move on. Administrative report, City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have 3 documents in front of you. One is the return to safe workplace procedure. You could take a look at that. And we worked with our senior team.
I'm not that much about that.
All
right.
Commissioner Harris?
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I couldn't hear. So anyway. May I?
Go, please.
Okay, you have 3 documents. One is a return to safe workplace, and that is our HR director working with our labor council and our senior team. Take a look at that. Very, very thorough. You also have a game plan that we discussed most of it tonight. May 18th, which will be this coming Monday, we will begin to take a next phase in our parks. So take a look at that, and it's up there for all our residents to look at, which is our courts, racquetball, tennis, basketball, and our fields. Clearly, with social distancing, all those parks that will have those courts open will have staff in place. The 3rd document that you have is a document that you can use for the city manager's evaluation. In regards to my manager's report, very quickly, you have in front of you also our proposed budget schedule. And the finance director and I worked on that for your perusal. So that way that you can schedule accordingly. You have some information there for calculations on revenue losses. So you could take a look at all the different funds and what we anticipate. You also have information on the census 2020. This information on the census, on hurricane season, on the additional bulk trash. I know that this is something that Commissioner Brandymart had said to make sure that we put it out there. We've been putting it out there in social media. The 800 cars that went through in the casino this Friday, they got it. The 600 vehicles that will come through May the 22nd for that food drive will get it. It's in social media. We've been doing a lot of code red alerts in regards to our census. And we look forward to doing some videos with you in regards to the census as well. We had a presentation earlier today, and we will continue to be in contact with both Kim from Dania Point and Randy, working with them, working with our local businesses. We also have information from the Division of Unclaimed Properties. This is an individual that I met at one of the Port Everglades luncheon. Long story short, I said, whatever you could do for us in regards to monies. So for the city of Dania Beach, they have found approximately 30 unclaimed accounts. So we're looking at anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000, but any bit that we can get helps. So that's, they've been in contact with Frank, so we expect to get that check very soon. And that concludes my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
City Attorney,
Nothing to add.
City Clerk reminders.
Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, May 26th at 7 p.m. is your city commission meeting. That's all.
Thank you very much, everybody. Be safe and have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
We're adjourned.